This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Are you interested in the Bahamian economy? How about tips to improve your financial literacy? Tune in to Guardian Radio.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. The Attorney General says the citizenship bill is being finalized. The cannabis bill to be tabled in Parliament next year as well. The Prime Minister seeks to lock in climate financing. And Disability Awareness Week kicks off today. We're talking about disabilities and the challenges facing people with physical disabilities and others in the country. That's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, December 1st, 2023. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Stephen Hanna will be joining us. Also this morning, it is World AIDS Day. We are talking about the Bahamas' fight against AIDS and HIV. That's this morning as well. And we will get a preview of this weekend's Tingsmas Market from Eyes Bahamian Bay. We'll get into that this morning as well. That's all straight ahead on a busy Friday. But let's begin with the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, the government is finalizing legislation to address remaining inequalities in the law regarding how Bahamian women pass on citizenship to their children. That's according to Attorney General Ryan Pinder. He says that things will be happening very shortly. He was speaking during the Office of the Prime Minister press conference, the press briefing yesterday. He says they're working on a framework and amendment to the legislation that deals solely with the remaining areas of inequalities that exist. As it stands now, the children of Bahamian women who are married to foreigners and born abroad are not eligible for citizenship at birth. The inequality as it relates to passing on citizenship has long been controversial, and previous administrations have made efforts to address it. Both the Ingram and Christie administrations attempted to address the issue via referendum, but both failed. The Constitution has been previously interpreted as denying citizenship at birth to children born out of wedlock to foreign women and Bahamian men. However, a May 2023 Privy Council ruling changed that. Up until that point, the Bahamian Constitution had been interpreted as providing a right to apply at age 18. The Attorney General also saying that a bill to regulate cannabis and hemp will be brought to Parliament early next year. Gave the update when asked if the legislation will be tabled in the House before the end of this year. As was previously indicated, Pinder saying that they're hoping to have one more public consultation on the matter that may happen before the end of the year. International watchdogs have called on observers from the United Nations who are currently in the Bahamas assessing the migration detention situation to urge the Bahamian government to stop the mandatory detainment of all apprehended migrants. The plea is outlined in a joint submission to the UN's Working Group on Arbitrary Detention from the Center for Justice and International Law, the Global Detention Project, and the Center for Migration Observation and Social Development in the Caribbean. The submission, sent to the UN body in November, outlines the watchdog group's concerns about the deprivation of liberty of migrants, refugees, asylum seekers, stateless persons, and other at-risk non-citizens in the Bahamas. The groups highlighted long-standing issues surrounding the conditions at the Carmichael Road Detention Center, including complaints about overcrowding, poor nutrition, and inadequate medical care. A 24-year-old corrections officer accused of having sex with a teen with a mental disorder granted bail. Christopher Gomez Jr. was remanded to prison on October 25th after being charged with 2 counts of unlawful sexual intercourse with a person with a mental disorder. Justice Gregory Hilton yesterday set his bail at $9,500 on the condition that he signs in twice weekly and has no contact with the alleged victim and other witnesses. Prosecutors say Gomez had relations with the teen between July 23rd and 29th this year, and on August 1st, the prosecution did not object to Gomez's release on bail. Police called to F&M headquarters on Mackey Street during a meeting of the party's central council after police say an altercation broke out on the outside. This was last night. It was the first council meeting since the F&M's loss in the West Grand Bahama and Bimini by-election on November 22nd. Deputy Commissioner of Police Lamont Delaveau telling the Nassau Guardian that police were informed that an argument broke out between 2 F&M supporters, but he stressed that the information was still preliminary up to last night. No one was in custody in relation to the matter. F&M Vice Chairman Richard Johnson, a staunch supporter of former F&M leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, said he was attacked by a man he does not know. He said he was standing on the outside in a crowd when the incident happened. Johnson spoke with the Nassau Guardian after he left the police station, where he filed a report. Earlier this week, Johnson was a guest on a talk show calling for an F&M convention and calling for the return of Minnis as leader. And during the launch of the Bahamas Sustainable Investment Program in Dubai, Prime Minister Philip Davis invited fund managers and CEOs from around the world to join the Bahamas in its fight against climate change and disasters. Davis, speaking during the United Nations Climate Change Conference known as COP28 yesterday, said that through the initiative they're going to, quote, survive an era of supercharged storms by creating supercharged win-win investment partnerships. He said that along with strategic advisors, Resilience Capital Ventures, they'll work with regional and global capital market leaders to underwrite and put in place an innovative financing facility aiming to secure a facility of $500 million. Overseas, Israeli fighter jets hitting targets in the Gaza Strip minutes after a week-long truce expired today as the war with Hamas resumed in full force. Black smoke billowed from the besieged territory, and Israel dropped leaflets over parts of the southern Gaza region, urging people to leave their homes, suggesting it was preparing to widen its offensive. In Israel, sirens warning of incoming rockets blared at several communal farms near Gaza, a sign that militants also restarted the air attacks, but there were no reports of any hits. The renewed hostilities heightened concerns for Palestinians in the tiny coastal enclave, as well as about 140 hostages who remained there, after more than 100 were freed during the truce. Qatar, which has served as a mediator along with Egypt, said negotiators were still trying to reach an agreement on restarting the ceasefire. Qatar's foreign ministry singled out Israel's role in the resumption of fighting and said that it, quote, complicates mediation efforts and exacerbates the humanitarian catastrophe. A day earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli officials and urged them to do more to protect Palestinian civilians as they seek to destroy Hamas. Blinken arrived Friday at the COP28 climate talks in Dubai, where he was to meet with Arab foreign ministers and other officials. And the United Nations top court is set to announce today whether it will order Venezuela to halt parts of a referendum planned for Sunday on the future of a disputed territory that makes up 2/3 of Guyana. Venezuela does not recognize the International Court of Justice's jurisdiction in the decades-old dispute over the Essequibo region, and is expected to press ahead with the referendum regardless of what its judges decide. At urgent hearings in November, lawyers for Guyana said the vote is designed to pave the way for annexation by Venezuela of the Essequibo, a territory larger than Greece that is rich in oil and minerals. They called on the World Court to halt the referendum in its current form. But the Venezuelan vice president telling the court, quote, nothing will prevent the referendum scheduled for December 3rd from being held. Venezuela has always considered Essequibo as its own because the region was within its borders during the Spanish colonial period, and it has long disputed the border decided by international arbitrators back in 1899 when Guyana was still a British colony. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his allies are encouraging voters to say yes to all 5 questions in Sunday's referendum, one of which proposes creating a Venezuelan state in the Essequibo territory and granting Venezuelan citizenship to the area's current and future residents. After years of fruitless mediation, Guyana went to the World Court in 2018 asking judges to rule that the 1899 border decision is still valid and binding. Venezuela argues that a 1966 agreement to resolve the dispute effectively nullified the original arbitration. In sports, Americans Brian Harman and Tony Finau sharing the lead after the first round of action in the 2023 Hero World Challenge. That got underway yesterday at the Albany Golf Course in Albany, right here in New Providence. Meanwhile, tournament host Tiger Woods is in 18th position as the second round gets underway today. Finau and Harman both finished the first round with a score of 67.5 under par. Woods, who last competed in April, shot a 75.3 over par to end the first round. Jordan Spieth is solely in third with a score of 68, 2 under par. There's a four-way tie with Cameron Young, Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, and Max Homa. They have a score of 69, 3 under par. Read more about it in today's Guardian Sports section. From NFL Thursday night football action, Dak Prescott throwing 3 touchdowns as the Dallas Cowboys extend their home win streak to 14 with a 41-35 win over the Seattle Seahawks. And Buffalo Bills linebacker Von Miller turning himself into police in a Dallas suburb after he was charged with a warrant with domestic violence against the mother of his children, who's pregnant. Dallas police confirming that the 34-year-old Miller surrendered to police in the suburb of Glen Heights to face a charge of third-degree felony assault of a pregnant woman, which is punishable by 2 to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. The alleged assault occurred on Wednesday according to a police affidavit in which officers wrote that Miller twice put his hands on the neck of the woman, pulled out a chunk of her hair, and threw her on the couch. She was treated for minor injuries, including bruising on her neck. Miller was free after posting $5,000 bond. Miller did not return a text message from the Associated Press seeking comment. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your weather for today, we've got high pressure across the area. That's going to produce some fresh to moderate breezes, while the frontal boundary over the southeast Bahamas will dissipate through tonight. Streaming moisture will support some shower activity, mainly in the northwest and central Bahamas. Boaters and beachgoers should exercise caution due to possible rip currents, especially along eastern shorelines. For all areas today, we're looking at variably cloudy and breezy conditions with scattered showers that will continue through tonight. Smoke-craft caution remains in effect due to offshore swells. Winds east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots in the northwest Bahamas and 15 to 20 knots with higher gusts in the central and southeastern islands. Seas 2 to 4 feet in the northwest Bahamas, 4 to 7 feet in the central and southeastern islands. Seas slightly higher in light swells, mainly along Atlantic coastlines. Temperature-wise today, we're looking at highs getting up to 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 72 Fahrenheit, 22 Celsius. Currently in Nassau, it's about 77 degrees under partly cloudy skies. The Atlantic hurricane season ended yesterday. We'll recap the season in our next weather check, coming up after traffic in just a bit. You're listening to Morning Blend. When we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on your home for fresh news and smart talk all day. Guardian Radio 96.9.
It's the start of the new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day.
Go CIBC First Caribbean. We help you
to get what you want this year. Spin the wheel of wishes with a trip for two to Miami. Spin the wheel of wishes. You can win loads of cash for Christmas. CIBC First Caribbean.
Win with your approved loan. Visit CIBC FCIB/Wheel of Wishes for more information. Conditions apply.
Cashmas is here at Percy's Island Game. 78 winners, $250,000 in cash and prizes, and a grand prize of $50,000 in cash. And there's more. 7-day Caribbean and Alaska cruises, 7-day trips to New York, Las Vegas, and London. TVs, iPads, cell phones, and 3 brand new 2023 Toyotas. Enter to win each time you deposit $20 on your verified account at the only place with the cash, the cruises, the toys, the trips, and the cars this Cashmas, and that's Percy's Island Game.
Enjoy great savings this holiday on your favorite water, Aquapure. Now until December 31st, take advantage of Aquapure's Christmas coupon special. Purchase a book of 10 5-gallon coupons for just $37.50 plus VAT, regularly $42.50 plus VAT. And best of all, these coupons never expire. Be sure to take advantage of this great offer. Aquapure's Christmas coupon special going on now. Call 394-7873 or order online at aquapure242.com.
Get ready to jingle all the way to Christmas with Fidelity's festive giveaway with over $10,000 in cash and prizes up for grabs. Apply for a loan or open an ASU savings account for a chance to win big. Visit any of our branches for more details. Terms and conditions apply.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's a Christmas wish for all of you. Get a no-fee loan from RBC, it's true.
This Christmas, your wish could come true with a no-fee loan from RBC. You have 5 chances to win up to $5,000 Christmas cash.
It's a Christmas wish for all of you. Get a no-fee loan from RBC, it's true.
Learn more at rbc.com/Caribbean/Christmas cash. Subject to normal lending criteria. Conditions apply.
Take some advice from your Aunt Angie. If you want to go scuba diving on your vacation, don't bedazzle your wetsuit. And you think you look great, but what you don't realize is that you look like a shiny, scaly fish. And it won't take long for a shark to notice you. Next thing you know, you're busting out every karate move you got. But if you're smart, you'll have CG medical insurance and get airlifted out to the closest hospital.
Get coverage for emergency evacuations. CG Atlantic Medical and Life Insurance. Good like that. All benefits are subject to policy provisions, including eligibility at the time of service.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. 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 Wake up, wake up.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 at BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Stephen Hanna will be joining us in a bit. Coming up this morning, we've got a lot to get to this morning. We're going to be getting a preview of the Eyes of Bahamian by Tingsmas Market. That's this weekend. Going to find out more about that in our 7 o'clock hour. Then in our 8 o'clock hour, we're talking about Disability Awareness Week. That is starting today. And later, we're going to take this into business. It is World AIDS Day today. We're going to talk about the Bahamas and HIV/AIDS in this country. So a lot to get to on this first day of December 2023. Let's begin, though, with what else is in the news. And in the news, some updates from the Attorney General. The citizenship bill is still being finalized. The government is working on the legislation to address remaining inequalities in the law regarding how Bahamian women pass on citizenship to their children. And he was speaking during the Office of the Prime Minister press briefing yesterday, saying that we should hear some things about this shortly. He says, quote, "We're working on a framework and amendment to the legislation that deals solely with the remaining areas of inequalities that exist. We're finalizing that now, doing a final review, and hopefully we'll be before Cabinet in the coming weeks on that issue." So, as of now, as our Rachel Scott writes in today's NASA Guardian, the children of Bahamian women who are married to foreigners and born abroad are not eligible for citizenship at birth. They'll have to apply. The inequality as it relates to passing on citizenship has long been controversial, of course, with numerous, the Christie administration and the Ingram administration before that trying to address the issue via referenda, both of which failed. The Constitution had been previously interpreted by some as denying citizenship at birth to children born out of wedlock to foreign women and Bahamian men. However, a May 2023 Privy Council ruling changed that. And up to that point, the Constitution had been interpreted as providing a right to apply at age 18. In April 2022, Ryan Pinder, the Attorney General, had said the citizenship bill to address these issues would be before Cabinet by summer of that year. Earlier this year, he said that the promised citizenship bill would not be brought until the Privy Council's ruling. All right. So we will keep you updated on that one. He also spoke about cannabis. A bill to regulate cannabis and hemp will be brought to Parliament early next year. Gave the update when asked if the legislation would be tabled in the House before the end of this year, as was previously indicated. He said, but it won't happen before the end of this year. Quote, "We have one more public consultation we would like to hold, and we'd like to hold that by the end of the year. We have some feedback, and we're taking into account now for some modifications to the regime. Very limited, but some have written in with some good points that we're considering." All right. Let's get your reaction to this, folks. We heard a couple of days ago the head of the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association, Dr. Marvin Smith, giving their views on medical cannabis, medical marijuana, saying that their view is that only licensed pharmacists should be able to dispense medical marijuana. And, right? So, what say you to that? So what they're suggesting is even if you want to have a shop, if you're allowed to, when this becomes the law, you would need to have, this is what they're recommending, this is what they've said to the government, recommending that there be a pharmacist in there to dispense this medication since it's medical marijuana, and that you just couldn't, even though you might know all and everything about cultivating cannabis, that wouldn't be enough for you to be in a shop selling medical marijuana. So let's talk about that and the citizenship, where things stand. This has been going on for a very long time, but let's get your reaction to all of it. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. So more with the cannabis industry. The Attorney General says that they're going to be adjusting what they've put out there, I guess the draft legislation so far, looking at in January being able to table the adjusted legislation. And remember, this is out for public consultation, so if you have your views and you haven't shared them yet, what are you waiting for? And also, the time is now. Legislation to regulate the cannabis industry was first promised by former Prime Minister Dr. Rupert Minnis, but it never came to fruition. In its pre-election document, the Blueprint for Change, the PLP committed to bringing forward legislation for the industry. At the end of August, nearly 2 years into the Davis administration's term, the government released a compendium of 11 cannabis-related bills for consultation with provisions including decriminalizing cannabis under 30 grams, legalizing medical and religious use of cannabis and expunging criminal records for cannabis possession under 30 grams. Attorney General Pinder said at the time that the proposed legislation is based on the findings of the CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana, which released its report in 2018. All right, Stephen Hanna is joining us now. Good morning, sir. Great to have you with us.
It's good.
Always a pleasure. All right. So you're getting the reaction to what the Attorney General is saying about these long-awaited, long-promised adjustments and new legislation on citizenship and on cannabis.
Ain't nobody can say that the PLP this go around and legislate, because they're legislating a lot of things that people have been complaining about. That's three things right there. That's three big ticket items. Sorry, turn that down.
What's the third?
Well, you didn't mention it today. That was yesterday. The detention center.
Okay, well, those are the things. Those are the things that should have been in place from day one.
Yeah,
but,
and they weren't. That's my point. My point is like these are systemic things that have not been addressed for multiple.
Well, when it happens,
administrations.
I don't know if we could go as far as say nobody can say they haven't, but okay, but they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're lawmakers. Okay, what's going on with the mics? What's happening? Like I'm hearing an echo. I'm in a chamber somewhere. What's up?
I don't think that's the mics.
Okay. No. Okay. But yeah, let's get your reaction with folks. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Toll free, 242-300-5720. All right. Well, we will see. We'll see. It's been a lot of talk. It keeps getting delayed.
What, the cannabis one?
Everything. The citizenship as well has been a long time coming.
Yeah. I mean, but relatively new for them. But yes, I mean, it has been decades and decades. But yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of stuff happening. So yes, like you said,
really?
Once everything, that's three things. I just say it like that's three things that I didn't think that anybody was going to ever actually address.
Why? Everybody's promised it.
Yeah.
This really rules for the detention center. I mean, that is the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit.
Right. Right. So why hasn't it been done for so many years?
No expectations of governments in the Bahamas.
I mean, I think that is the one thing that all Bahamians hold.
Oh.
That all Bahamians agree on, that they don't have any expectation of any government.
Well,
and
they will pass laws that affect like 3 people in the country, though.
Yeah, but they've surpassed our expectations. So it's like, because the detention, how long has the detention center been around for?
Decades.
Okay. And so from then, nobody thought it was necessary to put legislation in place.
Mm-hmm. People did, but nobody who was elected.
But that's my point. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking, and now the people who are elected finally did something. Well, are tabling things. So it's like, okay.
You're easily impressed.
Hey, when you set the bar low, then it's like, it is what it is. I'm just saying it's better that they legislate something than twiddle their thumbs.
Right. Okay. I hear you. All right. Well, okay, so you can continue to give your reaction to this. I'm not sure why this is the big story, the biggest story in the paper today. I mean, this is... that sounds like a inside story to me. But okay. Police called to F&M headquarters. Minute supporter attacked. All right, police were called to F&M headquarters on Mackey Street during a meeting of the party's central council last night after police said an altercation broke out on the outside. It was the first council meeting since the F&M's loss in the West Grand Bahama and Bimini by-election on November 22nd. Deputy Commissioner of Police Leon Delaveau telling the Nassau Guardian that police were informed that an argument broke out between 2 F&M supporters, but he stressed the information was preliminary. No one was in custody in relation to the matter. F&M Vice Chairman Richard Johnson, a staunch supporter of former F&M leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, said he was attacked by a man he does not know. He said he was standing on the outside in a crowd when the incident happened. He said, quote, I came outside, I was on my phone, I was talking to some people who were outside, and out of nowhere, this guy just came and physically attacked me, saying the man started to punch him. At that time, I started defending myself, and persons got between us, and he was able to get away and run off and gone. Persons say they saw him with a gun. I didn't see it because he was able to run off very quickly. Now, Johnson spoke with the NASA Guardian after he said that he left the police station where he filed a report. Earlier this week, Johnson was a guest on ILTV, and on a show he called for an F&M convention and called for the return of Minnis as leader. Johnson said last night he thinks the attack was motivated by his recent comments. Though he did not recognize the man as a party supporter. Johnson said he went into headquarters after the man ran off. He said, quote, I told them all of you all are a part of this, and they said you ain't coming in here disturbing this meeting. And the council meeting was briefly suspended. And he said they resumed like nothing ever happened, claiming that no one in leadership showed any real concern over what had happened to him. When contacted for comment, F&M Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands decried the incident. He told the NASA Guardian that, quote, we abhor violence of any kind. We are shocked and saddened by this altercation or assault. The police force is investigating. We expect that the findings of that investigation will result in appropriate measures for the perpetrators. Okay, yeah. Now, Johnson has a court matter pending against Sands and the F&M leader Michael Pintard. He sued them after party members voted to suspend him from attending all future meetings last October.
Oh, it's this guy.
that one.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
Probably a long list of people who might want to assault him.
I was wondering why y'all had a picture of him. Okay, now it makes sense.
He's the, what is he, vice chair?
Yeah, okay.
It's a big position.
All right. All right.
Vice chairman. Yeah. He sued the party after they voted to suspend him from all meetings, all future meetings last October.
Right, when he was being disruptive.
Yes, right. Earlier this year, Justice Deborah Fraser ordered that Johnson be allowed to attend meetings and carry out his duties as vice chairman of the party pending a determination of his lawsuit. Last night, Johnson insisted that the party is in shambles after the by-election. As you recall, the F&M's candidate, Ricardo Grant, won just 32% of the votes compared to the 38% that Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe had previously. Okay. So, sure, do you want to give your reaction to this story? 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Was this first meeting that he attended, or
probably
that would be
because they said it's
the first since the by-election,
right? Oh, you mean it's the first since the
court matter?
The court.
Then that would be like, wow,
that
first day. First day.
Hey, you don't come around here.
See with your cause. No, this is a horrible. You can't be.
What is horrible? You know what?
Attacking people.
There's a part of it where it's like, really. You abhor violence in all forms.
That was the funniest statement ever.
No one abhors violence in all forms.
What?
Nobody. It's impossible. It's impossible.
What do you mean by that?
It is not human to abhor violence in all forms.
Which form is acceptable to
Do
it?
you eat meat?
Once in a while.
Okay. Have you ever screamed at a person?
To get out of the way.
Okay. So you don't abhor violence in all
forms.
How is that
violence?
If somebody came and attacked you, would you do violence to them to stop it? Words mean things. Stop pretending.
Okay. Well,
just say
you're being
nitpicky. I'm not being nitpicky.
We abhor violence of any kind. We are shocked and saddened by this altercation or assault.
When you're in opposition and you do not actually wield any heavy legislative power, words are all you have. Let's not pretend as though this is beyond the culture that this man has helped to instill inside the F&M.
This part gets me, though. The Royal Bahamas Police Force is investigating, and we expect that the findings of that investigation will result in appropriate measures for the perpetrators. That's hilarious. Okay.
And that's how you that's the answer. The reason why this is a tough story is because it's like out of all the other stuff, like
exciting.
This is the only one that anybody said what to, because everything else is like, where's the controversy inside the marijuana legislation? There is none.
It's taking long.
That's not controversy. If anything, you could either say, oh, they're dragging their feet, or they're being very careful to make sure they cross their T's and dot their I's.
Mm-hmm.
There's no controversy in that. Where's the controversy to the citizenship thing? There's no controversy, all right? Like, this is something that we've rehashed and hashed out a million times.
This is the one that will get reaction from
This
people.
is the only one where it's like, this is actually a controversy that's happening. I mean, it's weird. I don't... Whatever. Anyway, you know what I actually saw inside the paper just now that I'm a little concerned about inside the business.
You're going to change the subject? Okay.
No, sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Let's finish it, and then we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Okay. Yeah, you can call in as well. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Toll free 242-300-5720. You can tweet us, Facebook, and text us as well. 422-4796. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight, and good morning, Stephen.
Hi.
Good morning.
You know, Dwight, yesterday I was only trying to make a point. You don't have to cut me so unceremoniously like that in the middle. That ain't professional,
You were talking for quite a while, and we had to guess, and we had to move on.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. But, Stephen, you're saying that there's no controversy as relates to the citizenship issue. Are you speaking as a lawyer? Are you speaking as, to the law? Or are you giving your opinion?
I'm speaking as a humble layperson on the side of the road. That's my humble opinion. You are free to disagree.
Okay. All right. Continue to call in. Let's read some of your text messages. This person says, good morning. Pharmacists do not dispense whole plant cannabis around the world. So why in the Bahamas?
No, they wouldn't, to my understanding, based on what was said in the show yesterday, as well as the loose
Wednesday.
Sorry, that was Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
What happened on Thursday? Good God. But yeah, that's not what I gathered. I gathered that it would be a situation where they're saying to dispense to the public
for medicinal purposes,
right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to say, hey, if you're using this because you have cataracts, we want to make sure that it doesn't have any interactions with your blood pressure medication, your other diabetes medication. They want to make sure that you're safe on that end. That's what they're calling for, not for only pharmacists can grow it, only pharmacists can necessarily, for example, if it comes as edible, there'll be, I guess, production persons in charge of doing that, and they would be the ones, once again, so they don't make every single chemical
dispense. That's pretty simple. Text that's not what they were trying to say. Pharmacists should stick to their expertise and focus on pharmaceutical products. Leave herbal treatments to the herbalists. Rastafari. Give thanks. Okay.
Right. Now, see, what I think might be part of the confusion with that is that it sounded like he was saying that only medicinal is coming forward. And if I remember...
Who's he?
The person who you had on
Dr. Smith?
Yes, on Wednesday. I mean, I'm saying...
No, he didn't.
No, I'm saying, I know he wasn't saying that. I'm saying that persons may have gleaned that because he was speaking so strongly about that portion of it. But if I remember correctly, there is, like you said, decriminalization on inside the draft legislation, right?
For small amounts.
As well as there's...
for religious purposes.
Right. And so it's not necessarily saying that only pharmacists would be able to dispense it to Rastas or like that. It's not that. But for medical purposes, he is advocating that there be this is how we should do it for that purpose of it.
Right. It doesn't sound like... doesn't sound like there'd be. Well, I don't know how that would work, but your weed man may not be in jeopardy if he sells only tiny portions.
No, he would be.
Would he still be in jeopardy?
Yes, because you're not in jeopardy for having a small amount. He would have to have a large amount to sell you small amounts.
He might only have small amounts.
How could he only have small? He literally only has he only has enough for one blunt. He just carries one blunt a day and just walks around.
Many distribution sites. I have no idea.
The whole point is
no idea how it works.
It's so that only big fish get in trouble and not their children. But so like that's the, and what we could quarrel about that. But just generally speaking, there are different avenues in that, and I feel. You know what? I hear people talking about it, but I've never heard anybody actually read the draft legislation.
What does that mean, Stephen?
I never heard anybody read. Like I've heard people speak about it, like, oh, it speaks to this, it speaks to that, but like, what does it actually say?
What do you mean you've never heard anybody read it?
I never heard anybody read it.
Why would you hear anybody read it? Do you mean you haven't heard a show discuss it in depth? Is that what you mean?
Sure, let's go with that.
Because what does that mean? Why would you hear? Have you heard anybody read any legislation anywhere?
People often quote the preamble.
But that's a weird thing to say. But you're saying, I suspect, that there should be more discussion about the draft legislation.
Right, but in all facets, not just in one direction. Because what happens is if you go too deep in one direction, people think that's the only thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And they don't realize, like, oh, no, it's multifaceted to address these different... The law is to address the culture.
There hasn't been enough public discussion and consultation on this at all.
I mean, there's been consultation, but I don't... Discussion, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the concerns that people have...
Well, as you heard, the Attorney General saying they've only had a few written responses. Not much, but, right? So despite despite all the talk, people, have they read it? Have they looked at it? Have they given their views, right? Other than calling talk shows and say the government playing around. So that is the challenge here. And when this gets passed, people or presented to the House, people are going to be all like, well, this is crazy. But what did you say? Did you give any views?
It won't move left or right.
No, it'll be too late by then.
No, I mean, even if it wasn't too late, they're not going to do anything about it. So it doesn't matter.
And then... That's why we're always where we are. This person says, has someone called for Minnis to return as leader? I'm dumbfounded. Well, hey. This one says, it seems like every time Johnson shows up, there's chaos. He seems to be a big mouth. Pintard and the F&M need to stay focused and return this country to good governance. Okay. This person says here, he's attacked, I guess this is Johnson, numerous people on social media, recently via voice notes, especially on WhatsApp, so the line is very long on persons who may be wanting to see him.
Throttle?
Plus, he was promising a big show at the council last night. Oh, he was. Whoop, there it is. He needs to stop bullying people. He's a bully. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. All right. So, what caught your eye?
Oh, the government pushing for intellectual property reform by the first quarter next year. I'm glancing over it, and I'm questioning: which direction is it going in?
Okay, let's take a look at the article by our Chester Robards. The country's intellectual property reforms will help to improve the bottom line of orange economy businesses, align the country with global best practices, and possibly expand the number of streaming services global companies make available in the country.
Yeah, see, that's the part that worries me.
Why?
No, because I mean, like, if the intellectual property reform is to protect the property rights of persons outside of the country coming in, as opposed to internally,
it could be both.
Well, we'll see.
The number of streaming services that was the part that concerned you?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because that sounds like they want to crack down on the bootleggers internally in the country, which, sure, knock yourself out. But when I hear intellectual property reform, I want to hear, like, how are we going to help all of the people who are making music, all the people who are making art, make more money off of their work. But once again,
well, that's a slightly different issue, but and that's you got to deal with that on your own, right?
if you're talking about intellectual property, you're talking about defense of it. So it's like if you take a picture.
There's some people who are doing what needs to be done, and others who are very lax about it.
If you take a picture for a company, right, to use in an ad. If you take a picture, the company uses it in the ad. Who does the picture belong to? You know, stuff like that, because that's a part of intellectual property rights.
Yeah, and then so that goes back to you making better contracts and making sure that you stipulate everything with the companies that you deal with.
The conventions that we signed on to don't require you to necessarily register. You automatically have the copyright once you produce it. That's what I'm saying. So that's my concern. My concern is like, who is this to benefit us locally? But once again, this is one of those things where I would like to hear more about this in a wider forum among the persons who it would affect.
Yeah. Ryan Pinder, the Attorney General, says that the reforms could be ready for Parliament by the end of the first quarter of next year and will produce a new stream of revenue for the government. Addressing the media at the Office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing, Pinder explained that the country's intellectual property legislation is nowhere where it needs to be to allow Bahamians to properly profit from and protect their intellectual property. He added that with the government looking to sign on to certain international conventions on intellectual property, there will be international protections provided for Bahamians and for anyone else doing business in the country. He said, quote, "This is a comprehensive reform and modernization of our intellectual property regime. Intellectual property services are an effective policy tool in unlocking local creative, inventive, and innovative potential, stimulating the transfer and use of technologies and creative works, and encouraging fair competition, thereby promoting the creation of wealth and fostering national, social, cultural, and economic development in our country."
How long was that sentence?
That's
a long sentence.
a lot. They're going to do a lot. Oh, boy. He said the government believes intellectual property protection is a foundational element of the economic empowerment, and they strive for suitable growth in the future and providing meaningful opportunities and protections for Bahamians in the orange economy. Well, I mean, they're saying the things you wanted to hear, right? But
I want to hear
how will it translate?
Right. And to go back to cannabis, when you're like, the discussion needs to be had before, you know, because like by the time it's tabled, it might, I wouldn't say it'd be too late, but it'd be like, oh, where do we go to ask for you to add something here or there, you know?
Okay, let's take some calls on this. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, toll free 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning.
Hi, good morning.
All right, morning. How you doing, Dwight?
Doing well.
Okay, how you doing? I'm your co-host.
Stephen Hanna.
But yeah, but this my question is more geared. I'd like him to answer. So what I'm looking at, right? If we look at the marijuana legislation, and then I just want to look at just a question on the by-election that just went, and I want to know what your view is on it. Within even addressing any of these situations, for example, with that election, what has already passed, I noticed that it gets fizzled out. It gets fizzled out on how to address it, where to go to address it, and I start to realize that none of it is not cultural, not taught, not in our educational system.
You talking about the by-election, or you talking about the cannabis thing?
I talking about cannabis and the by-election. Like, we don't have a culture of actually addressing these things. So my question is, how do you now go about, like, making real strides toward addressing these things when the framework and the whole systematical structure doesn't give way to it? Like, could we still use the same methods to address old problems, or how do we address new problems, and how do we step out of the framework of these are the old way to answer these issues?
Right. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think that before we step out of the old framework of how to address issues, I think we need to first figure out what is the framework. Because what I gather from what you're saying is persons don't necessarily know how by-elections work or what's the point of a by-election. Or with the cannabis legislation, they don't know, okay, there's draft legislation, where to go to find it, where to go to complain and say, no, don't do this or do this part or whatever. That's what it sounds like you're saying, right?
Right.
Right. So first, we need to be able to answer those questions. Is the issue that the government needs to make the draft legislation easier to find? Do they need to disseminate it? Do they need to put billboards up with the first paragraph on the side of the road? Do they need to allot time once a month to say, hey, here are all the things that we hope to pass this month or this year. We're talking about this today. And approach that first. Because the legislation isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is that we don't really know what's happening until it affects us directly. So somebody might be on the side of the road thinking, oh, they say marijuana ain't illegal no more. And it's like, no, they didn't say that. They said a certain amount isn't illegal anymore. Although you're not going to get charged for it anymore. It's not that it's not illegal. And so now you're standing there with just enough for the police to arrest you, and you didn't realize it.
And the reason I asked that question, because sometimes before I graduated from the University of the Bahamas, I had an issue, and so I went to the logbook, to the handbook guide, to find out how to address any fine recourse on issues that you may have with administration.
Right.
Lo and behold, you know what I found in that book? I think it's Stephen. I found that the university said, if you have an issue with administration, you must go to the administrative office and ask in a nice way. So what it prompted me to do was, is like this, they don't give you no redress or recourse.
No.
So I was seeking to amend the Constitution of the College of the Bahamas to give the student body, the student council body, the ability to have voting rights and the capacity to address reform.
Right.
And that was like pulling teeth, because what I realized within this democratic system we have, because who created it and how they created it, it gives very little leeway when you take to the core of it on how to address these things, and then everything gets lost in translations and old Latin words and like weird writing ways. It's like it gives no true way to actually
address
them in a speedy and an expeditious manner.
Yeah, no. And you know, sadly, I cannot like just outright say, oh well, the way that you do this is this.
Exactly.
Right? It's not. I don't. Where the draft legislation is, I'm sure that if I sat down and continued to Google, I could find it. But that would require me. The legislation is going to affect more than people who at this moment are seriously interested in it. I would have to be very interested in it to go searching for it to find it. Whereas this is going to affect people who right now are just like, I guess, whatever. You know?
Caller, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Yeah, there's a better job definitely needs to be done on getting the word out on these things.
Right. Especially when you have a win. I feel like these aren't necessarily negative legislation or like insidious, underhanded things. So it's like, this is a win for you guys. Like you need to be out there telling everybody, hey, this is what we plan to do. Do you have any suggestions? We'll take it under advisement.
Partial win. A lot of people are angry that they're not yet moving forward with recreational. But
once again, Dwight, I mean, they've given you everything that culturally a person would need, right? The idea that, oh, recreational isn't there, what does that even mean? Like, because at that point, now you're asking for something else. When you start saying, oh, we want recreational, you're given 3 means of consumption. If that's 3.
What's the third?
Because if they decriminalize a small amount, that's a third means. You could, if you recreationally use exactly the amount that they're talking about, then no one's going to be like, oh, you're getting locked up. So like, what the fact that persons are decrying, saying, oh, it's not recreational, that sounds like what you want to do is snort pot. I don't know how people do marijuana. You want to snort pot in the middle of the road.
That way.
Oh, okay. You want to shoot pot in your veins. You want to, right? That's what it sounds like. And I think that they've given, once again, maybe they haven't given enough, and maybe this is the conversation that needs to be had. So
okay, some text messages before we go to a break. This person says here, Dwight and Stephen, I favor the F&M in my voting preference, but not a member. They should call a convention and put all positions up for nomination. It seems that selfish, divisive people in the party like Minnis and Johnson need to be expelled now for the party to recover before the general elections. Just my view.
Boy, anyway, if you do that, be careful what you ask for, because you might end up with more of that than you bet.
Okay, this person says here, Johnson needs to give it a rest and stop the madness. He doesn't realize the more he displays his shenanigans, the more the party is galvanizing behind Pintard.
I wonder if these texters are members of the F&M.
Well, that one just said they vote with the F&M, but they're not really a member.
Right. But voting doesn't mean, that just means like, oh, I guess I like them more because
yeah, that's what they're saying.
I like their shade of blue better than the POP shade of blue in their suits. You know, because there's F&M blue and then there's POP blue.
Okay.
All right. But the whole point at the end of the day is like, we can say whatever we want to say from the outside. The internal culture of these various parties is a whole different thing. And like we've seen it before where people say, oh, there's no way a Donald Trump could win. There's no way this person can win or that. And then the person wins, right? The Bahamian public loves a bully. They love a strong man. So while we're looking at it from our little corner of the Bahamas saying, why is this man acting like this? Why is he so bigoted? Why is he this and that? For all we know, the culture right now within the party might be to encourage that, right? And so, like that would have to be addressed first before you say, "Well, let's just get rid of this person." Because, like, you call a convention right now, you might end up with 30 Johnsons.
All right, a couple messages as we go to the break. This person says here, the government protecting copyright, intellectual property. Well, this is from the same Attorney General who's claiming in a current court case that the government cannot be sued for copyright infringement. How can I submit my secret idea to someone who literally believes they can take my idea as theirs?
Is that about the flag?
I'm not sure what this one is about. I don't know. And this one says the Bahamas is behind in passing progressive laws. The proposed laws on cannabis and citizenship should have been passed years ago. These laws are commonplace in progressive countries or first world countries. What do MPs really do here? Well, all right. Well, again, you know, to be fair, they've tried other ways. They tried to fix the Constitution, and the people rejected it. So that was the way they wanted to deal with it. But so now they are
doing it through legislation.
Right. So to be fair on that one, and the other one, it's a complex matter. It really is.
For marijuana?
Yeah, it is. It could get in. Yeah. So they need to be careful. They need to take their time, and but hey, they're making progress. It seems
it is better for them to take their time and get it right.
Yeah.
Than for them to rush it. And then a year later, we're like, why did you do this thing?
3 months later.
You've caused so much trouble.
Yeah.
Now, what I would, once again, having the conversation would only help the average Bahamian see where do they fit into this equation.
No, so you say.
No,
I mean,
I don't
I agree. They don't do much. They don't do enough. But when it does happen, the people are quiet. The people don't listen. The people
I'm not even.
Right, and that's a big thing as well.
But I'm saying I'm not even on that because like I'm on the part where because when people are ready. Here's the thing. I didn't know who Kingsley Smith, Black. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who Kingsley Smith was until 2 months ago. All right?
Why would you?
But that's my point.
But I mean, why would you? I mean, he wasn't.
I know people in Freeport. I know people in Grand Bahama.
Okay.
I'm saying I didn't know who.
I didn't know any of these candidates except for the ones from Nassau. So
right.
what about it?
But I'm saying, who taught us that? The parties taught us that. The government and the opposition were the ones who put these persons' names out there. They kept repeating it.
The people there knew them.
Once again, but I'm talking about the wider public. Right?
It didn't matter.
No, but I'm saying, if they wanted us...
Y'all weren't voting. It doesn't matter.
No. You're missing the point, Dwight. I'm saying that the same way that Stephen, who is not voting in Grand Bahama, knows about Kingsley Smith and knows that he used to work at the passport office.
Now.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now is the same way that I can know about the draft legislation. If they put that same effort into that, I'm just saying that's what the people are expecting, because the people are saying, hey, when you want me to know something, I know it.
Okay. I don't know if in this regard is right. They've done a lot of bad communication. All administrations. In this regard, I'm not sure this is exactly. They could have done a better job than they've done, but they put it out there. It got a lot of attention when it was put out there, and it was widely covered in the media. Yes, maybe we haven't done it yet. I've been promising that to have a lawyer. We're going to go through it,
and that'd be great,
right? But it's been out there.
No.
People could have done it. If you're really interested, there's no excuse.
No, and see, that's the thing.
No excuse.
If you're really interested, I'm seeing that, and this was the caller was talking about. For the persons who at this moment don't know that they should be interested. So my concern, my concern for this is, because here's the thing, Dwight, if you're a person who don't smoke weed and you don't know anybody who smokes weed, or you think you don't know anybody who smokes weed, right? This to you is like, and you have neutral opinion on it. This is like, wait, whatever,
what do you expect people to do? If you don't know, you should be interested. That's what can anyone do about it?
But now here's the flip side of it, right? When I say, what is the role that the average Bahamian plays inside this? I don't want the only role to be consumption, right? I don't want us to only be, the average Bahamian, to only be participating in this in where can we buy it, when can we use it, how can we use it, as opposed to how can this fulfill my life on other terms? Can this become a vocation? Where do I fit inside this? And that's what
you're looking to be spoon-fed. Right,
they spoon feed us with everything else. And once again, I'm not. This is not a personal thing. I'm telling you to what I think that the reason why the public is just sitting and waiting is because
I don't think that's accurate either.
Not for everybody.
Yeah.
But for some persons,
they don't want, because it's not going to be, everybody won't get a chance to do this. And it's going to be in some people's best interest to keep quiet and let's get in there while the others were sitting around wondering, I haven't heard much, right? So it's all on you folks. You got to get up and do something. You heard about it? Like, wait, should I be paying attention to this?
Right.
Yeah, you can't be spoon-fed on everything.
Yeah, because like, what if there's a lot, like, space for you to like purchase, like not just purchase, but like to grow or whatever. Yeah. You know, like where do you fit in?
Well, hey, we need to celebrate.
Is this because of the smoke?
It's because the hurricane season's over and we were blessed.
Is that why we're playing?
That's why we're playing Hallelujah. Hallelujah, sir. The Hallelujah.
I thought it's because of the smoke.
What Anglican? What?
That's not.
So be thankful. We were spared. We were spared. We need to have dancing in the streets.
They did last night.
Not for that. Not for that.
Were you there?
But not for that. But hey, we're going to tell you more about the what was and what didn't happen with the hurricane season in weather in just a bit. But this is Morning Blend on a Friday morning on Guardian Radio 96.9.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
.41, time for first look at traffic for the morning, brought to you by RBC. Get a no-fee RBC loan plus 5 chances to win up to $5,000. In your real-time traffic this morning, we have, as usual, heavy traffic on Milo Butler Highway from Fire Trail straight up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway. That's northbound lanes there. And seeing some heavy traffic on Gladstone Road at this hour as well, about midway between Fire Trail to JFK Drive in the northbound lane. Building traffic on JFK both eastbound and westbound toward that roundabout. Elsewhere, Blue Hill Road, heavy traffic for you near Carmichael and especially north of Soldier Road if you're heading northbound toward the roundabout with Independence Drive. Independence Drive looking busy for you westbound so far this morning. And building traffic on Eastern Road just east of Fox Hill to about Johnson Road, and at the major intersections along Prince Charles Drive. Robbins Road starting to get busy for you just east of Old Trail. And as you approach the east-west highway intersection. That's your first look at traffic for the morning, brought to you by RBC. Learn more at rbc.com/Caribbean/Christmas Cash. And it's time for another check of weather brought to you by Easy Car Sales. As we told you, the 23 Atlantic hurricane season came to an end yesterday. The season was above normal in terms of activity, with 20 named storms that formed the Atlantic basin, ending with Tammy, the fourth highest number in a single year since 1950. 7 of the storms turned into hurricanes, and 3 of them became major hurricanes. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, says that an average season has about 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. But thankfully, it is over. It is over. We have 6 months before the next Atlantic hurricane season officially begins. In your weather for today, we've got high pressure across the islands that's going to continue to produce moderate breezes, while the frontal boundary over the southeast Bahamas will dissipate through tonight. Streaming moisture will support shower activity mainly in the northwest and central Bahamas. For all areas today, forecast calls for variably cloudy, breezy conditions, scattered showers through tonight. Small craft caution remains in effect due to offshore swells. Look for temperatures getting up to around 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius today for highs. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 72 Fahrenheit, 22 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure is expected to continue to dominate weather over the country through the weekend, with fresh to moderate breezes along with streaming moisture supporting some isolated shower activity. So for Saturday, tomorrow, variably cloudy, mild and a bit breezy with a few isolated showers or thunderstorms. Sunday, partly sunny and warm with a few isolated showers or thunderstorms, becoming fair and mild at night, breezy in the southeast Bahamas. That's your morning blend weather check, brought to you by Easy Car Sales. Unleash the power of electricity. Test drive an electric vehicle at Easy Car Sales and discover the instant torque, quiet ride, and power of an EV. Visit easy242.com and plug into the evolution of transportation.
Wherever you are in the world, Cleveland Clinic's world-class care is here for you. From Ohio to Florida to London, Cleveland Clinic treats thousands of patients every year, ranked number 2 in the world by Newsweek. You can trust our caregivers to enhance your experience across each step of your treatment journey. For every care in the world, learn more at clevelandclinic.org/Caribbean.
Shanae's Chesapeake Road Christmas Wonderland is open under the Big Tent. Get your Christmas trees in pink, frosted, green, or white in a variety of sizes. Musical Christmas LED and laser lights, a large variety of tree ornaments, lighted angels and Santa tree toppers, bright and lively colored Christmas balls in all sizes, garlands, wreaths, tree skirts, stockings, and lots more. Add flowers, picks, and decorative mesh to brighten up your home or office this holiday season. And don't forget the toys at Janae's Chesapeake Road. Check our selections online at www.janae's.com.
'Tis the season for sharing with loved ones and friends, and a time for reflection on the year soon to end. But before this year ends and the new has begun, we at Screws and Fasteners World would share a gift too, though it be only one. For trusting our services in projects great or small, we thank you for stopping by or giving us a call. As we bid farewell to this year at its end, should we not meet tomorrow or on the other days round the bend, have a happy Christmas and a safe celebration till we meet again next year for another collaboration.
You could win a Samsung tablet with Whim Automotive. It's simple. Spend $60 or more between December 9th and December 30th and enter to win one of 2 tablets. The winners will be announced live on air December 23rd and December 31st. So make sure you tune in to Hot 91.7 to see if you are one of the winners. Shop in-store or use our drive-thru to get the parts you need. You can also shop online at www.whimauto.com. Shop with Whim and have a Merry Christmas.
Enjoy the magic of Christmas at Nassau Cruise Port all December long. Visit Santa and his helpers at Santa's Workshop for holiday photos. Enjoy Christmas caroling, wreath decorating, mixology classes, and movie marathons. And of course, come for the great concerts and holiday shopping. Nassau Cruise Port is your ultimate destination for Christmas fun. Visit NassauCruisePort.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for details. Nassau Cruise Port, the place to be.
What would you do with extra cash? Plan a trip.
Overhaul my wardrobe.
With CIBC First Caribbean, you can get comfy with savings on your mortgage cost. Buy or build your home or switch your mortgage to us and get up to US $1,000 off the loan application fee. Up to US $2,000 off home insurance. With up to US $10,000 towards switching cost, your pockets will be comfy too. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/get comfy for more information. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. And this morning, we've been telling you about it all week, and we're going to get the details about it. It's the Tingsmas Market from Eyes of Bahamian Bay. And we've got Cache Knowles with us. Good morning, Cache. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so everyone was laughing at me pronouncing. Yeah, right. Because I said bay the first day. They said, no, it's boy. And then there's bui. And then everyone's like, you say it. Bay.
Yes. I mean, context plays a role.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's different versions of how you pronounce it.
Well, there you go. Okay, so we'll get to Tingsmas Market in a bit. But tell us about Eyes of Bahamian Bay.
So Eyes of Bahamian Bay is a brand that provides a platform for Bahamian culture and identity to flourish. I do that through my social media page, which is where I post different aspects of Bahamian language, define them, and make them shareable for the Bahamian community and the wider world. And then I also do that through my clothing line, where I post different phrases and sayings on shirts, hoodies, hats for us to wear and showcase.
Why is that important? Why do you feel that you should do this?
Well, it definitely came from like a hobby of me just posting and defining the words, and people literally demanded me post them on shirts. I think it's important because of, one, the stigma associated with the way we talk and our accents and our dialect. And then also, two, getting the conversation about why language is so powerful and why the Bahamian language is so important. Also, two, it is very important because we hear how we talk. And right now, I ain't talking Bahamian, but we hear how we talk. We talk it in everyday life, but we don't actually get to see how these words are spelled. We don't actually get to engage and interact with how we talk, and we don't understand how important it is for the culture because just how we talk, you know.
Part of that is because the language has not been codified,
validated.
Well, I mean, it's because we have an oral tradition and not a written tradition. Right. So, as simple as the word "bay," it is
bay.
Right. So there's the argument and bongi. Like nobody knows how to spell it. Everybody knows how to say it, and it would depend on which region you're from, where you stress which part.
Exactly.
So depending on how crystallized it is inside your island. So a place like Russell Island, they're going to pronounce all the words
differently.
Very, very differently from somebody in New Providence where we have that interaction with like North America on a daily.
Right. So one of the most, I guess, defining designs that I've made for shirts is that I do I as a Bahamian bay and the 3 spellings of the word bay.
Right.
And I did that to include as many as I can in a design, so when you buy the shirt, like you feel included because every island do use a different spelling of the word. And then again, context too. I know some people who use multiple depending on what they're speaking about or depending on what they're trying to express.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the way that it's being used in the name of this event is an exclamation. It's technically an ejaculation, right?
What now?
It's when you exclaim something. So it's not bay as in a person. It's bay as in a
excitement.
Right. And to like emphasize the end of it. So it's an exclamation point. That's why I sighed, because Dwight is still pronouncing it incorrect. He's saying it incorrectly. Your syntax is incorrect.
I's a Bahamian way.
Right. That's how you're supposed to say it. But
is that not how I said it?
No, you're saying it as a person. You're saying
no. That's what I was saying.
That's what it's coming off as.
Well, that's you.
But I love that distinction though, because I've never explained like, okay, this is how you're supposed to say it, because everyone is just say the way they want. But definitely, depending on who says I's a Bahamian way, it works or it doesn't. Like you either say it the way that you're expressing, like I's a Bahamian way, or it's like, oh, it's off.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play with these things and and the spellings and so there's no wrong spelling.
No. Inclusive.
Wow.
Well, there are wrong spellings. You can't spell it with an L.
Right.
So
true.
And that's the L is very silent.
Okay.
Like,
all right. So
is the one that's hard to do.
How long have you been doing this now?
4 years.
Wow. Okay. Great. So where can people find your stuff?
You can find my things online at isabahamianbay.com/shop.
Spell that bay.
BEY. BEY is the one that I use for my business. But inclusivity.
Yeah. That is beautiful. Okay, so Tingsmas Market. This is the second? Third. Okay, tell us about that. How did that come about?
Right. So the Tingsmas Market, Tings and Christmas combined, because we Tingsy. It's basically a market and a shared space for small businesses to come together and provide a space for the community to come and shop from us. So this year we're going to have 51 vendors selling various items like jewelry, clothing, beauty products. Just everything is in this space. We're also going to have food from our favorite Bahamian kitchens, fries from Benefits and Blue Flamingo, Bahama Foodie. And then we also have specialty drinks from Ricardo Rum, a Kitty's Corner. It's just it's a festival, but it's definitely based on the foundation of like Bahamian culture, and Bahamian language especially. So some of the interactive spaces that I'll have is a huge step and repeat that has Bahamian words on the background. So you get to, stand next to a giant Tingsy sign. There's also going to be a giant 242 sign. So just like a space where you can interact with Bahamian culture. And then I also have a whiteboard where you can write Eyes of Bahamian Bay on it. So at the end of the day, it'll be full of signatures of different people spelling Eyes of Bahamian Bay on it. So yeah, just a good day.
This sounds amazing. This is going to be Sunday, right?
Yes, Sunday 3rd at Collins House from 10 to 6.
All right, so you have to pay to enter?
Yes, so to enter, it is $10 for adults and $5 for children. When you enter, you do get a free sticker that, again, has a bunch of Bahamian words on it. And then you also enter our hourly raffle to, win things.
What type of things? Or things, sorry.
So it's going to be different various gifts from different vendors. So Eyes of Bahamian Bay will throw something in there, something or one or two things in there. And then jewelry. So everything from someone you will be able to win.
This is amazing, yeah. And how has it changed from year one to now the third annual?
Right. It's definitely grown a lot. In the first year, I think I had about 20 or so vendors. This year is 51. Last year was 56. And then also within this month, I've gotten 30 people that have asked to join. So it's just a matter of it is growing, but also to recognizing the capacity. And then also to every year I want to add different elements. So this is the first year I'm having the step and repeat, and then the signing board. So it's just a matter of how can I, improve next year. Will I have an education pavilion, where you can come and learn about different aspects of culture, perhaps. So this year we'll also have a 360 photo booth. You could document your time there. And I said Kitty's gonna.
Yeah.
The cringe. Yeah.
And when are you moving to 2 days?
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah. Slow and steady.
Soon.
Because I am a small business owner, putting this on, I'm not a corporation. I do have to thank my sponsors, Live, Sand Dollar, Ricardo Rum, Quantum Shipping, No Mistake Shop, Luther Block.
You don't have to whisper. You can say it.
I'm
say it. It's fine. It's fine. Say it out loud.
For the support, because like I said, I'm not a corporation putting this on. I am going to be a vendor at this event. So monetarily, it's challenging. Last year it was hard. This year is a little bit easier because I have more sponsors. But I do it because I recognize the space that it provides for myself and other small businesses. So I hope that we can continue to grow. Maybe we could do 2 days at some point in the future.
Take your time.
Yeah.
But it looks like you'll be there soon. You'll be there soon. Listen to this text here. I've been wanting to find this out for a long time. How do you spell it? Is it, look at this, B-U-E-Y or B-U-Y? It's definitely not B-U-Y ever, right? That's by.
That's not I've seen the B-U-E-Y. I'm not going to lie. It's whatever you feel.
I mean, the truth is it has to be that a consensus.
So it's interesting. In the dictionary from, I forgot the date, 1969.
I mean, B-E-Y is governor?
In the dictionary from, the first Bahamian dictionary, it's actually spelled B-E-Y-E-H. But again, words evolved, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say that that's how you spell it. That's just how they would have spelled it back then. Right.
The John Holmes dictionary. So he was spelling it out.
But yeah.
No, he was spelling it how they were pronouncing it. And so it isn't necessarily that he was saying this is the
exact spelling.
Right.
No, or there was no spelling.
Right.
Because at that point, people just said it. There was no Bahamian dictionary before that. So
hey, this text just says it's B-E-Y. That's it. End of story. Full stop.
So another linguistics fact is that we actually don't have any letters in the English letter alphabet that can spell bay. So from a linguistic standpoint, it's B upside down E schwa, which is literally it looks like a J. Yeah.
All right, one more time. Tingsmas Market. Somebody's asking where Collins House is.
That is the old Ministry of Education building across from the Tribune.
Right there.
Right there, the big yellow building.
Before or after the hospital?
It's
after.
If you're heading west of Doctor's Hospital, but east of PMH.
Right.
You can't miss it. The big old building there. It's going to be all festive looking on Sunday.
Exactly.
Cache Knowles, you've been a great guest. We hope to have you back soon. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Looking forward to Tingsman's Market on Sunday.
Thank you.
All right. Got to go to the news. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio.
Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. And now at 8:21, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by the 3rd annual Tingsmas Market this Sunday. Here's what's happening. We've got high pressure across the islands. That's going to continue to produce fresh to moderate breezes, while the frontal boundary over the southeast Bahamas will dissipate through tonight. Streaming moisture will support some shower activity, mainly in the northwest and central Bahamas. Boaters and beachgoers should exercise caution due to possible rip currents along eastern shorelines. For today, for all areas, your forecast calls for variably cloudy and breezy conditions with scattered showers through tonight. Small craft caution continues due to offshore swells. Temperature-wise, look for highs getting up to around 82 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 72 Fahrenheit, 22 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure is expected to continue to dominate weather over the islands throughout the weekend, with fresh to moderate breezes along with streaming tropical moisture supporting isolated showers. So for Saturday, tomorrow, variably cloudy, mild and a bit breezy with a few isolated showers or thunderstorms. Sunday, partly sunny and warm with a few isolated showers or thunderstorms, becoming fair and mild at night, breezy in the southeast Bahamas. That's your Morning Blend weather check, brought to you by the Eyes Bahamian by 3rd annual pop-up Tingsmas Market this Sunday, December 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Collins House on Shirley Street. Enjoy shopping, food, drinks, entertainment, giveaways, kitty corners, and more. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for children. The Eyes Bahamian by 3rd annual Tingsmas Market this Sunday. And at 8:23, time for another check of your traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. Get a no-fee RBC loan plus 5 chances to win up to $5,000. In your real-time traffic at this hour, Mile Butler Highway, still heavy traffic for you well south of the Fire Trail roundabout, straight up to Tonic William Starling Highway. That's the northbound lanes there. Over on Gladstone Road, looking much better for you this morning, only until you get closer to the roundabout with John F. Kennedy Drive and Palmer Boulevard. You're going to be seeing traffic there. There is a bit of congestion, though, on the JFK side, heading westbound toward the roundabout, especially near Theodore Lane. Elsewhere, we've got Blue Hill Road seeing heavy traffic from St. Vincent Road straight up to Independence Drive in the northbound lanes there, especially near Carmichael. Carmichael's busy for you from Fire Trail straight up to Blue Hill Road. And Independence Drive, both directions, heavy traffic, but especially westbound heading toward the roundabout with Blue Hill Road. And Prince Charles Drive also seeing heavy traffic at the major intersections, especially Prince Charles and Soldier. As you continue westbound into Robinson Road, you're not going to be moving much there, straight through to East-West Highway. And Marathon Road also busy for you this morning, northbound Bernard Road near the schools in that area there. That's westbound traffic, and Eastern Road still busy for you east of Fox Hill to about Johnson Road. Those are your hot spots. That's your real-time traffic brought to you by RBC. Learn more at rbc.com/Caribbean/Christmas Cash.
Electric vehicle in town. The Jack brand of SUVs, trucks, sedans, and commercial vans. Available only at Easy Car Sales, home of the fully electric vehicle. For a powerful, smooth ride at a fraction of the cost to drive, leave the pump behind and hit the road with Jack. Visit easy242.com to see our brand new Jack models and drop into Easy Car Sales for a test drive. It'll have you singing. Hit the road with Jack and don't you pump gas no more.
Unlock dream deals this Black Friday at Alive with up to 55% off select Ring devices. Instantly upgrade your home security with 24/7 remote monitoring, motion detection, and instant alerts. Want full protection? Save even more by bundling your devices. From the front door to the backyard, secure your home with products like our Video Doorbell 4 and floodlight cameras. Shop online at bealive.com or at select Alive stores in Nassau and now available in Grand Bahama, Abaco, Eleuthera, and Exuma. Alive. Believe in best.
I As a Bahamian Bay is back again with the third annual Things Must Market. We'll be popping up on Sunday, December the 3rd from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. at Collins House. Join us as we eat, drink, shop, and be thingsy. There'll be over 50 small Bahamian businesses to shop with for Christmas. Delicious food, specialty drinks, giveaways, and more. Entry is only $10 for adults and $5 for kids. And each ticket is automatically entered into our hourly raffle. Cash, credit cards, and $100 payments accepted. You don't want to miss it.
Power on the holidays this Christmas with Custom Computers. We have everything that everyone wants to see under the tree. Laptops, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Find gifts for every reason this Christmas season at Custom Computers. Visit us on Patton Street in Palmdale, opposite Liquid Courage, or in Caves Village through the Blake Road entrance. The best Christmas has to offer is right here at your one-stop shop, Custom Computers.
What would you do with extra cash? Plan a trip.
Overhaul my wardrobe.
With CIBC First Caribbean, you can get comfy with savings on your mortgage cost. Buy or build your home or switch your mortgage to us and get up to US $1,000 off the loan application fee. Up to US $2,000 off home insurance. With up to US $10,000 towards switching costs, your pockets will be comfy too. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/get comfy for more information. Conditions apply.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. And changing gears again, it is Disability Awareness Week starting today. And as the world gets ready to mark the International Day of Persons with a Disability on December 3rd. And we're going to talk about all of this morning. We've got with us back in studio, it's been a while, Kendrick Roll and Townsley Roberts. Good morning, gentlemen. Great to have you with us.
Good morning, and good morning to your listening audience.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about. International Day of Persons with a Disability, plus Disability Awareness Week, and you've got a whole lot of events going on. But let's begin with what's happening here this week, Disability Awareness Week, and why this is important for us to observe this and to talk about these issues.
Well, this is our 14th year of observing Disability Awareness Week here in the Bahamas. And it is always important to observe the week as we want to continuously educate the general public on disability-related issues and the importance of inclusion, and also our responsibility as a nation to the United Nations as we are signed on to that treaty to ensure that there's equal opportunity for persons with disabilities across the board in our country.
How are we doing in that regard?
Poorly.
Oh boy. He didn't even hesitate to answer that.
Yeah, but it's a work in progress.
Why
it's a
poorly?
Work in progress. My colleague there could tell you he heads the inspection part of it, going to businesses and any public spaces to ensure that it's accessible. And let me allow him to tell you his experience.
Remember, the first thing we have to realize is that putting a law in place may be difficult, but changing a mindset is much more difficult than that. And we are trying to change the mindsets of how Bahamians think about disability, and that's the challenge. So most times, most people don't recognize or even think about having a disability until they have a loved one that have a disability or what happens to them.
Yeah.
And then remember, the Bahamas is an archipelago. So whatever we do here in New Providence, we have to do throughout the length and breadth of this country. The commission just spent a week in Central and North Andres at the beginning of October. And the challenges there are great. You know, as we complain about the accessibility issues in Nassau, the Family Islands is far worse.
My goodness.
They don't think about those things, and we have these standards of building that has creeped into our society that isn't even in the act, where we put these lips on doors, and then we put a ramp to get onto the pavement, but then the lip on the door you can't get in the building. Then they
Explain that a little more.
Okay, so they'll put it, for example, if you come into the Guardian, the front door, most likely in most Bahamian businesses, there's about 3 to 5 inches lip between the ground and the actual
Even the elevation.
Right, so now you have that, but then they'll put, if they happen to be in an area where they believe floods or they build the building higher, they will literally put a pillar ramp to get onto the payment part, but now you can't get to the door. Then we have the next issue where the door's not wide enough.
Yeah.
A standard entrance should be at
steep
least
ramps as well. Very steep.
And that's we found in Andres, where there are ramps. I mean, we make a joke about it. They're trying to launch some kind of rocket.
Oh my
'cause
God.
They are deadly. You know, they potentially can cause people to get injured if you happen to fall down these ramps. And then the law says anything longer than 3 feet requires rails on both sides, and they don't even have them. So, trying to get people to understand the purpose of these pieces of legislation and specs is a difficulty, because in reality, those things can help any individual, not just people with disability.
Right.
I was gonna say, like ramps, you don't necessarily aren't only for persons in wheelchairs, because older persons who have, or anybody with knee issues, it's easier to walk up a ramp than it is to walk upstairs.
Right.
And so putting these things in place, it benefits, if you're a business, it benefits
Right.
all your customers, and it's upsetting because I know it's just people being cheap.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Let me just plug it all. So persons who are blind or visually impaired, those ramps assist them. The rails assist them too. People don't realize that your eyes are your balance. And so without having vision, you can lose your balance at any point in time. It happens to me over and over. You see? So it affects cross sections of persons.
I think a lot of times too is that it just requires them to get someone who knows a little bit of engineering to say how the building climb.
Yeah.
And they refuse to do that. They just get a mason who just thinks a ramp is just throwing some mortar down and smoothing it off. And voila.
Is it what Steven said? You think it's money? That people are cheap?
It comes down. I think it comes down to money also. And then we have this thing that they like to put tiles on a ramp.
Yeah.
And then they don't just put.
Why would you put tiles outside in the first place?
And they don't just put outside tiles. They'll go to a cheap route and buy the inside tiles are cheaper and put on the outside. So when they're wet, and I've talked to many people who are falling on these ramps, and re-injured something or got injured. So the danger is there, and the business need to realize the liability is going to fall on them. They need to be proactive in this.
What do you do? What can you do?
So
what are you doing?
We inspect all public buildings through the National Commission for Persons with Disability. We have a senior inspector, Mr. G. Michael Ellis. I usually also go out with him for inspections. So when we make these inspections, we write a report. The commission is empowered to do an adjustment order and give them a time period to correct these situations. Now, we've been focusing more on trying to correct the government buildings first, because it's difficult for us to go out there and tell people they need to do this when we ain't doing it.
Lead by example.
Right. So we have definitely been trying to go to the schools, which have challenges. And, so we've been dealing with the schools and the ministries and all these different places. And there's various challenges, especially where we find that government, especially in the Family Islands, they rent premises that was designed as houses and not really as businesses. So those challenges, you'll find the interior doors are too narrow, the bathrooms are definitely too small. So the accessibility is really wasn't thought about until they have someone who works there and have to deal with that premises.
Yeah, but I mean, even I'm thinking about government schools in New Providence. Yeah, if you have a class upstairs, I'm trying to think of any school that's outfitted with an elevator.
But this is the thing about it. What really is funny, when I talk about the elevation at the door on the first level, in all of our schools, there's also the elevation on the second level. I'm thinking, why? I understand the first level maybe because of flooding issues. But it's not going to flood on the second story.
No, that's just because that's how the person who built it knows how to build it. It's all a matter of this is how we do it, and that's how it's always been done. And so now you have to get into the culture of saying, hey, this isn't necessary.
And there are a couple schools that do have elevators. Now, the thing about it is that do they work?
Oh, my.
So there's at least one school with a lift. It's not working. There's another school that's been recently built with an elevator and doesn't work.
Good Lord.
Elevator is breaking down. It's
no,
it's terrifying.
It has never worked.
Oh my goodness.
Never been activated.
Oh wow. All right. So you say you do the inspections, but what happens when you find the violations? Can you do something about
like
it?
I said, we send them the report, including the adjustment order. The commission is empowered to send adjustment orders. We can give them X amount of time to have this fixed. And we have used it in the past. For example, King's College, when they first was renting a place, they came to the commission themselves, asked for a blight because they're renting until they build a new facility. And since then, we actually have inspected the new facility. And now those issues are solved.
Wow.
And we went through the entire place. And on that inspection, we actually carried a PS for social services, information and broadcasting. So he had a first hand too to see how accessibility is in that facility. So, and a lot of people sometimes think that cost is always the issue, but a lot of times there are solutions. For example, we find schools that have a section where they do some carpentry. They can make temporarily removable ramps out of wood.
Right.
But they don't think about that. And that's a cheap fix. It's simple fixes many times if we just sit down and think about it.
Well, no, I mean, and the thing is, I think the cost that people associate or think about might only be in their head, because it isn't necessarily that everything is going to be too expensive to do. And then some of these things are just straightforward. Having railing is not going to hurt anybody. Having railing helps everybody, because you don't have to be disabled to need rails or to use rails.
And the reality is, if you live long enough,
yeah,
you will have a disability.
Yeah.
So I don't see why people design things and don't think about the future. Because even the way we design homes, we build our master bedroom on the second floor, not thinking, okay, we're not 20s when we build this house. If we live to be 60, 70 years old, our knees can be as strong as they are. We don't think about those things.
I know there's people who like to make shallow staircases, so it's like your whole foot ain't even on the stairs. It's a lot of more than a staircase.
Just your toe.
We know
Right.
those things.
And then like one unlevel stair. That's all it takes to trip when you're going up and down these things. And
Very scary. Colin, we'll get to you in a second. But okay, so is anybody fined? Has anybody been fined?
We have not fined anyone as yet, but it's coming to the point that several of the people we dealt with, our businesses, they are willing to make the adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
We have even had a bank who actually came to us. We didn't even go to them. They came to us to ask us to inspect their premises and tell them what they need to do. We had insurance companies do the same thing. So some businesses are proactive, and we like those things to happen.
Yeah.
So before something happens, and we remind them a lot, it's not just about your clients. It's about the people who are working in your business, because the law states if they become disabled, you can't fire them just because they're not disabled. Mm-hmm. You cannot make them sit in the corner and change their salary and their title. They must maintain that same title and salary. But you can find them a different job to do, but you cannot decrease their salary. And also it states, you mentioned about costs. Mm-hmm. You can create a policy and how you will deal with persons with disability who come to your business if there's a difficulty in retrofitting the building. Because there are some buildings that you can't put a lift in. So now you need to make a public policy. People can see that if someone comes there with a disability and they can't get to the second floor where officers are, someone must come to them and deal with them on that floor. Yep. And offer them the exact same services as anybody else.
I hear these things, and part of me also, I mean, by all means, be lenient, I guess. But in my mind, it's like, if you are operating a business, the cost of doing business is the cost of doing business, all right? If you want more customers and more clients, you need to make it as accessible as possible for everyone.
And we use that selling point, because if you make it more accessible, you probably get more people with disability to come too.
Right.
And some of us have exposable income, and people need to think about that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to tell persons with disability too, we need to show our power by, if the business that we go into don't have accessibility in place, we don't do business with them.
Yeah. Wow. All right, let's take this call, and you can call in as well, folks. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
All right.
Hi.
Hey.
It's Stephen. Right.
Morning.
I'm listening to the Rogers, right? The thing is, they are taking on a lot in which they should not be taking on, because in the country we have town planning, okay? And that's supposed to be government objective, because the government has us kind of people in the country. Okay, if you're going to license a building for whatever business building, the government's supposed to see that those situations are already in places. Okay, the same thing of if you're building a building, those situations, town planning is supposed to have them in place. They shouldn't be for your brothers to, you can go and check, but it's mandatory for government to have those situations in place, because there are government people that are handicapped, that are, disabled. So there's a bunch of foolishness going on. Okay, town plan is supposed to have those situations already reconciled.
Caller, the reality is there are a lot of businesses that exist before legislation change that you have to go and inspect. And many times, and this is what I need to remind the public too, I may have a disability, Mr. Rowe may have a disability, we still don't know all the issues out there. Because number one, his disability is visual, mine is I'm an amputee. I don't know what you feel, what you go through, what you live with. So we need you to make complaints at the commission. When you go to a business that there are issues, complain to the commission, so we can go and try to help you. We have this culture here that we like to talk to our friends and go on Facebook and post, and rather than talk to those who probably can do something for you.
Yeah.
And we need to get our persons in disability, not just the general public, but disability itself. You out there, you're the one who going through these issues. Let us know.
We talked about elevators and lifts. What are the rules? Is it there's a requirement for an elevator for if you are, is it 2 stories or 3 stories?
I understand it currently is saying 3, but remember they actually in works of making amendments to the legislation, so that will change. And the lifts comes about usually with businesses that the way the building is built, it's difficult to put an elevator in, so they put a lift instead.
Right.
So but we're trying to make it 2 stories because the entire building needs to be accessible.
Yeah.
And that's not just.
I know initially when we were doing these segments a few years back, we heard it was 3, and then most recently it's 2, but it's a little unclear.
It's moving to that.
Moving toward 2.
It's supposed to be because, and people think accessibility is just getting through the front door. Let me explain. Accessibility is more than that. The hallways need to be wide enough to be able to move around the hallway, the building. The doors need to be wide enough internally. You need to have what we call accessible communication. That's for example, if you have persons who are deaf, and we have these buzzers on these front doors. Deaf person, you can't tell you're buzzing the door.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You have visually impaired and blind persons. This is why you have the textiles on the ground, so you can know maybe there's a drop after the textile. Or like you see now, they put them at the street corners on the road, so you know. Or if you go to the port, you'll see them all around. So it helps you guide yourself through. We want to make sure in the airport they don't just have the screen that tells you what's going on with the flights, but actually announce it clearly.
Right.
Also, I know you all seen the commercials about the sunflower lanyards that the commission is partnered with NAD, which helps persons, especially with hidden disabilities. The staff notices the lanyard, and they supposed to approach and ask them what kind of assistance they need. Because we tend to forget all disabilities you can't see. There are a lot of persons with these intellectual hidden disabilities that just looking at them, they look like nothing around them. But they can't walk long distance. Someone with a heart condition can't walk 200 feet. They're considered to be disabled.
Yeah.
So we look out for all types of disabilities.
Well, boy, okay. Is there a place you can go to get the information? There's a lot of things that people don't think about all the time. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's a great idea. That really makes sense, but I had no idea that I should have thought about that. Is there a quick resource
The
for
National
that?
Commission for Persons with Disability has a website. It's called disabilitiescommissionbahamas.org. You can download the legislation, 2014 Persons with Disability Equal Opportunities Act. You also remember last year, December 4, we launched an app called Disability Accessibility Bahamas. That app was designed to make communication more accessible. We have government sending out information to the public. We have other agencies send information. But if someone can't see it in an understandable form, they can absorb it. So our app uses a cell phone, and the cell phone has accessibility functions already built in. So a deaf person can actually read it. A person who's blind, like this Roller uses JAWS to read off stuff. And you realize the average government website isn't accessible. We both work for government. Roll can tell you some difficulties using our email platform. So we try to make, just like how you will translate information, English into Creole, we make it into a form that the deaf and the blind also can understand it. Also, our app also allows for one-touch communication in terms of calling emergency services and all different things. Because we have issues there. Say someone someone who's deaf and can't talk, how are they going to communicate with the police officers? So we create this system where they can send texts where we have text lines in place. Because I know now the Department of Social Services also have lines where persons can text and discuss their problems and get solutions.
Wow.
We also, to the commission, offer a deaf coordinator, which offers services for persons who are deaf. They need to go to court, they need to go to the doctor, they need to go to interviews. It's free of charge. They can contact the commission, and they'll go out and help them to communicate with persons.
Also, Disability Affairs Division Department of Social Services. That's another avenue you can access all those services and assistance available to persons with disabilities.
Okay, we've got a lot of text messages coming in and some calls were coming in. We'll get to those in a bit. And we want to talk about what else is going to be happening during the weekend, especially the themes that we have for International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And you've got a whole lot of exciting events coming up this week as well. We're going to get into all of that after the break. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We'll be back in just a bit.
This Christmas, open the door and smile with Colgate-Palmolive's holiday promotion for a chance to win 50-inch 4K smart TVs, Lenovo 15-inch laptops, and Samsung Galaxy S21s. Promotion runs from October 19th to December 17th, 2023. Purchase any two Colgate-Palmolive products. Brands include Colgate, Ajax, Palmolive, Speed Stick and Lady Speed Stick, Irish Spring, Suavitel, Fabuloso, and soft soap at your favorite grocery store or pharmacy. WhatsApp a picture of your receipt with your name and telephone number to 558-0659.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Power on the holidays this Christmas with Custom Computers. We have everything that everyone wants to see under the tree. Laptops, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Find gifts for every reason this Christmas season at Custom Computers. Visit us on Patton Street in Palmdale, opposite Liquid Courage, or in Caves Village through the Blake Road entrance. The best Christmas has to offer is right here at your one-stop shop, Custom Computers.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts. With the new JetBlue CIBC First Caribbean credit card, you're cleared for takeoff to a world of incredible benefits and perks. Use your card and earn up to 2 times True Blue points on everyday purchases. Get your first check back free and travel to your next vacation faster. Apply for the JetBlue CIBC First Caribbean credit card today at CIBCFCIB.com/JetBlue.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. We are talking about Disability Awareness Week and the challenges facing persons with disabilities in our country. Kendrick Roll, Townsley Roberts with us this morning. All right, so I know you don't want to get into it, but we have to talk about it a little bit. This parking situation, this is really just frustrating for I'm sure people with disabilities, but others who see these cars that are parked, they don't give two hoots about whether that is there's a parking handicapped spot there, but they just will park there, and it just seems like nothing is changing here.
And since the last time we've been on this show and we talked, the National Commission for Persons with Disability is become responsible for issuing the parking permits.
Mm-hmm.
So you come to the Ministry of Social Services on JFK and Battle Avenue, and we now issue those permits free of charge.
Mm-hmm.
They used to cost $50 elsewhere. But yes, that problem with people parking in disabled parking spaces without a permit to be there and without actually having a need is a waxing problem, especially because those same persons will travel tomorrow to the United States and would not dare park in one of those places.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge is to get in place that system where we can hit them where it hurts in their pocket.
Right.
And I think that's the only way we can get
And
them
we
to
don't
stop
have that
doing
now.
that.
The
And we don't have it
legislation
right now.
is not.
We have a list of amendments we are trying to push forward, but the owners of these plazas can actually help us because they can actually police them.
Right, because it's the issue I suspect is that because it's private property, right, that the government is hesitant to
have no jurisdiction.
It's not that they don't have jurisdiction, because it's the government. The government can have jurisdiction wherever they want to. If the government wake up tomorrow and decide that they need this piece of property where Guardian is for a school, they can move Guardian and put a school there, right? But they are hesitant because when you start doing those things, certain people be like, oh, well, you can't tell me to do this, as well as that open the door for other things as to...
This is no problem anywhere else in the world. Why would that become a problem in the Bahamas?
Because our country is too small and everybody's too personal. Everybody knows somebody. It's sad to say, but that's what it is.
There are other things that if the government were to tell a commercial person, say, hey, do X, Y, and Z, people say, oh, you can't tell them that. How dare you tell them what price to put something at? If we can't get them to control the price of food, I'm just saying, it's all in the same. It should have told water. I agree with you. It should have told water.
No.
You're correct.
The lawmakers need to stop wasting time talking about the nonsense they talk about in the House and get to it. This is crazy. Pass the law.
But that has been my argument for quite some time, and I always stated to whichever minister is sitting in the seat, because persons with disabilities are apolitical. It doesn't matter which is the governing party. We have a disability despite who is governing. So everybody needs to understand that a person with disability needs to be a part of the decision making, because every decision made in the House and the Senate affects persons with disabilities. And if we don't have anybody there agitating, advocating, or arguing on our behalf, it is done without even a thought of how it affects us.
And you remember, persons with disabilities make up the largest minority group in any country, representing at least 15% of the population. So we're not a small, tiny group. People many times when the census come about will not tell them or admit to having a disability, but we know they exist.
Right.
From the simple eyesight issues, you have a disability. You have a little problem in terms of balance, you have a disability. You have a problem with gripping with things, you have a disability. We need to come to the grips with and accept that we have a disability, and we all become advocates. We all should be advocates.
Yeah.
Like I said before, if you live long enough, you will have a disability if you didn't have one before.
And the sad thing about it is, as we were getting closer to our 2030 goal of inclusion and elimination of all discrimination, that has been delayed due to the pandemic and other reasons. And so therefore we are going to now have a longer period of getting to that point in our nation because of that fact.
But we have been moving more to inclusiveness in terms of education. Several schools now have special units in them, which is good because we are moving away from...
They added a few this past.
We are moving away from institutionalized systems.
Right.
We just put people in the way and just put them there and rock, so to say. So
just get them out of view.
When they with other students who so-called able-bodied, it helps to kind of develop them, and it helps those students to understand also what disability is. And one of the things that Mr. Rowe and I always talk about is that we have to target the young people about disability. If we want to change anything in this country, we got to go with the young people. You can't change the older people so easy.
Yeah.
They decide what they believe in, and that's not going to change. Remember, we had the discussion about even the terminology in disability. The older persons, it's difficult to change them using these terminology.
Right.
The younger persons, we can in fact change, because we need to understand not to create these cages in these terminologies. There's a lot of terminologies they use in disability. I just say, throw out the labels. Anybody you meet, call them Mr. and Miss, and leave it alone.
Wow.
Because those, think about it, many of those terms are used, like for example, differently able. Dwight.
Stephen.
You are differently able than Dwight. y'all don't do the same things alike. Any person is differently able.
Yeah.
Be it able-bodied or non-able. So it doesn't matter. You know, we need to get away from these labels and realize, first of all, we are humans. We all have the same right. We all want the same opportunities. Just respect each individual, and let's go from there.
Let's take this call quickly, and then we'll get to these text messages. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
I just started listening, so I'm not sure if you all talked about this yet, but anybody can become disabled. Slip and fall in the bathtub, on the steps, traffic accident. We never know. So everybody should be concerned.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is
Thank you
a
very much.
statement we always made. 2 weeks ago, I think it was, we had a disability etiquette and sensitivity training where we had persons from various sectors, specifically police, defense force, immigration, water and sewage, and private sectors like Superflex. That's what, yeah, they came, and we had to educate them on the various needs of persons with disabilities, creating an inclusive environment, all the type of thing, because people need to understand, just like the lady just said, you can be sitting here today without a disability, and by the time tonight comes, you could be in the hospital, amputated, blind, anything can happen to you. So we always want to encourage persons to be a part of these awareness initiatives, activities, or what's not, because you may very well be helping to create an environment either for yourself or for a loved one.
Right.
And we want to also make people understand that because you have a disability, don't mean you can't contribute to a business and be an employee. You know, the government has made an initiative, and it's the second year they're having their 50-week program, include persons with disability. But we need also public sector to do the same thing.
Private sector.
And private sector. We have now people who've been working in the public sector for years who are blind, and they've been doing these exceptional jobs. It's just a matter of giving people the opportunity to see what they can do.
Yeah.
But also, we need to make sure, include them in all training, to train them to do these things. All it takes, for example, if we go to college, any of us go to college, when we come back to go on the job, we still got to be trained, no matter what that degree says. So training, once you train them, they can do the job.
All right, these very specific text messages here. This person says here, I'm a person with disabilities living in Central Andros. The office in North and Central Andros has my phone number. Got to find out about the meeting when I had to drive 20 miles to collect my coupon. Half hour before the meeting, I was catching a ride, so I couldn't make the meeting. Do you know what they're talking about here?
Yeah.
Why, after more than a year, can't I get a card where they can deposit my money on? I have to pay $20 to collect $92.
Yes, we were in Andros, from the 30th of October to 30th October to November 4th. We had 2 town hall meetings in Andros. And Andros is kind of difficult in terms of size. So we had 2 town hall meetings, one in Nicholstown and one in Love Hill. And the distance between the offices, there's a social services department in, I think that's Fresh Creek by the bridge. The other one is in San Andres. The distance between those two is really vast. And yes, it's a challenge. And Andres doesn't have any banks. So that's another issue in Andres. There's only one ATM machine, and I understand it doesn't work too often. So getting their funds to do what they need to do is an issue.
Yeah.
Also, my cell phone number for anyone is 477-7671. So reach out to me, and we can see, have a discussion with the department and see what's holding up on you getting what you deserve.
Give it again one more time, just
477-7671.
Okay. This person says here, it sounds like there are issues even with the government with people with disabilities. I have a friend who's being forced to relocate to the ground floor due to a lack of emergency policy and procedures and building limitations. The friend went blind over the past 2 years and has been left in the position of not doing anything because her place of employment is unwilling to ensure that she receives the necessary tools to do normal duties.
Oh, wow. Okay. She needs to call the number.
Need to make official complaint.
Make official complaint. And also that person who has become blind, they also need to connect with like the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired or Disability Affairs, because they need to understand what tools are available for them to be able to work efficiently and effectively.
They're saying that's a government ministry.
That's
a ministry.
Yeah, but I work for government, and they make provisions. So we need to find out who that is, so that we can ensure that they get what is due to them.
Remember, the final clause in the act says, "This act binds the crown," meaning the government. So not just the public that has to follow these rules, the government also.
Wow. All right. So the theme for this year for International Day of Persons with Disabilities, it's a long one. Let's talk about it, though. Let me see. I saved it. It is United in Action to Rescue and Achieve the SDGs for, with, and by persons with disabilities. Kendrick, tell us what that's about. What is that referring to there?
Well, it is similar to our theme, what we have here locally. It's inclusion in action. And it simply means providing the platforms that persons with disabilities are able to be included in all sectors of society. Mm-hmm. Personally, I like to talk about us being included in our economic, educational, social, sporting, cultural, and political life. Mm-hmm. And so far, we have been able to reach basically all of that. Provisions have been made for them to be included in the education form, whereas the University of the Bahamas, as well as especially our government schools, created their spaces for special needs individuals. Places like BTVI also caters, and some of the private places where Synergy College, where I got a degree last year, they all are accessible, and they have made it possible for persons with disabilities to be included. Mm-hmm. Okay, when we look at the economic life, we're still working on that because we want to create more entrepreneurs or the persons with disabilities so that they can display their talents or even achieve their goals or their ambitions. Mm-hmm. Okay, in our sporting lives, we have a lot of adaptive sports. Shout out to the Ministry of Youth and Sports. I think it was 2 weeks ago we attended World Adaptive Sports Day, and we recognized that persons with disabilities are included in a number of sporting initiatives, particularly my personal favorite, which is Beep Baseball, which is baseball for the blind. Yeah. They have made provisions for persons who are blind to be a part of archery. Even persons in wheelchairs or amputees like Mr. Roberts, they can play, do the archery thing. And well, with our Blindfold challenge coming up tomorrow, we can talk about that in a minute. We have a lot of adaptive sports that's going to be on display there. Mm-hmm. So they are included in the sporting life. In our cultural life, once again, we have our Junkanoo group who's going to be debuting on Bay Street again this year, called The Chosen Ones, which is made up of persons with disabilities and people who support persons with disabilities. Oh, wow. We coming out the gate first again this year, but we're not in the competition. It's just fun and all about inclusion, letting the general public know that we are part of our cultural life.
Excellent.
Politically, once again, persons with disabilities, I encourage them to be apolitical. We don't need to be a part, or you should not be a part, or publicly supportive of any party, because it doesn't matter who is governing, you are affected. Your disability doesn't change according to who is governing. What needs to happen is we need the support and the continuous support of the governing parties to make sure that we have an inclusive, accessible environment for all persons with disabilities across the board in this country.
And if you know what the SDGs are, one of those talks about poverty line.
These are the sustainable development goals.
Development goals. Many of the persons with disabilities are at that poverty line or below. And that's the challenge, because like here, it's a challenge getting a job.
Yeah.
So if no income coming in, you rely only on what is issued by NIB or Department of Social Services. So that's a challenge. Also, it is known worldwide that female persons with disabilities tends to have a higher incidence of abuse than the male counterparts. So that's a challenge. So education and teach people tolerance and everything else along those lines. So that's why the importance about those SDGs. You know, he spoke about the inclusion, education, and everything else. So these things all affect us.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe just in higher incidence but they're factors.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kendrick, you mentioned a little bit of it. A lot of fun happening over the next few days. Beat baseball and some other blindfold challenges as well. Tell us about that and what we can expect.
Okay, well, let me just start to say that today we kick off Disability Awareness Week. We are rocking our T-shirts. Thank you for supporting Dwight. Today is Disability Awareness T-shirt Day, and tonight we have a dinner show at the Paul Farquharson Center with the Training Center for the Disabled. Tomorrow is the Blindfold Challenge to everybody under the sound of my voice. You come to the Blue Hill Sporting Complex tomorrow. We'll be playing beep baseball, which is baseball for the blind. We have teams from the Defense Force, the Police Force, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Youth and Sports. We also have teams from the University of Bahamas, and people are still reaching out to us. I know the Department of Immigration and Water and Sewers are trying to get their teams together to come on board and play with us tomorrow. We'll have blindfold boxing, blindfold archery, blindfold basketball shootout. We're going to have a blindfold domino tournament, and that is going to be headed by the guys from the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Believe it or not, our blind guys play dominoes, they enter tournaments, and they actually win. So we want you sighted guys who believe you are domino kings to come on out tomorrow and see if you can beat our blind guys playing dominoes. We're going to be playing a number of blindfold games and stuff like that at the Blue Hill Sporting Complex tomorrow from 10 to 6 p.m. So we encourage the general public to come out there and get an understanding what it is to be living with blindness, as well as get an understanding of living with different disabilities, because we anticipate a number of persons out there with disabilities who will be enjoying the day of fun. Okay, Sunday is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I think this is our 32nd year. It started in 1991. So I think it's the 31st or 32nd year. We'll be celebrating that. We go to church at Bahamas Harvest Church and JFK. And then throughout the week, UB is hosting a forum on inclusion in the workplace and careers for persons with disabilities. That's going to be on Monday evening at 6 p.m. I think that's sponsored by Scotiabank. And then throughout the week is a number of disability-related events and activities. Specifically on Thursday, the Bahamas Association for Physically Disabled will be hosting their Christmas program. On Friday the 8th is Disability Giving Day. That is being done in partnership with the Bank of the Bahamas. You can go online, or the information will be shared through a flyer, and there will be a link for persons who want to make a donation to help with programs and also the development of our what is it called down the center, the New Providence Center for the Disabled, which is badly needed because persons with disability, after they would have finished school life, they hit 18, 19, they have absolutely nothing to do. And so we want to create a center where they can go and learn independent living skills and other skills on how to take care of themselves, cooking. Also give them an opportunity to socialize, get educated on just life in general. It's just a place for them to be after school life. And then the whole week will culminate with our Disability Love Day and Celebration of Unity and Strength concert. That's going to be next week, Saturday, December the 9th, beginning at 2 p.m. That's going to be at the Stapleton School grounds. We're going to have a full day of fun and entertainment, specifically for persons with disabilities and their family. Food, everything is free for those who attend. And it's going to close out with a big concert. We have Julian Believe headlining that, DJ Extra Large, who has just recently become a person with disabilities, so he understands the struggle and he is very supportive of it. At this point, well, I wouldn't say at this point, now he understands and he's come on board. We're going to have like the Magical Beat Band, we have DJ Counselor and friends. We're just going to have a good fun time as we celebrate and close our Disability Awareness Week. And as you see next year coming, we're going to be continuously doing more awareness initiatives so that the general public can always be educated and understand the importance of just supporting and helping to make a more inclusive environment for persons with disabilities.
Excellent. Really quickly, Townsley, someone's asking again, how do you get the decals for your vehicles?
Yes, come to the Ministry of Social Services on JFK and Battle Avenue. That's the L-shaped building opposite the new Bank of the Bahamas on JFK. You come there and ask for the commission. You need to bring a letter from your doctor, your NAB card, and it's free of charge. And we issue parking decals for passengers and for drivers.
Okay. Thank you both for being here this morning. I know it's not easy to get to this studio even, and we appreciate you coming here with us this morning. Kendrick Roll, Townsley Roberts, great discussion. And we hope when we talk again, we're going to talk a lot more next year, but when we talk, hopefully there will be progress every time we speak. But happy Disability Awareness Week to you all, and International Day of Persons with Disability on Sunday.
Yes.
On Sunday. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We always are thankful for you for having us here.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. We're going to break for news, folks, and then be back. It's World AIDS Day today. We're going to get into that discussion after the break. Stay with us.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas. Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, December 1st, 2023. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. It's a special edition of the show today. We are talking about World AIDS Day and HIV and AIDS in the Bahamas. And we're doing this again. This is what, our third time doing this, or we have
at least.
So this is excellent to have both of you together. We have the director of the National HIV AIDS and Infectious Disease Program, Dr. Nakia Forbes, and we have the president or
president
yes, of the Bahamas AIDS Foundation, Lady Camille Barnett. Great to have you both with us again together. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here.
All right, so let's begin with where we stand with HIV and AIDS in the Bahamas today. How are we doing?
Thank you very much. So we do monitor the situation on HIV and AIDS in the Bahamas, and we are making some progress. And so at the end of 2022, we'll say that we had about 3,943 persons living with HIV in the Bahamas. And we have seen that the number of new cases has gone down significantly. In the past 10 years, it's gone down by 63%.
Wow.
Yes. And AIDS deaths, unfortunately, that is still happening, but we are also seeing a decline in AIDS deaths. That's gone down by 41% in the past 10 years. And we are indeed living in an AIDS-free generation. I'm always happy to be on with Lady Camille Barnett. And I have to commend the work of the foundation, working with affected and infected youth. And she will tell you that years ago, we had a number of children that were born every year with HIV. But I'm happy to report that in 2022, there were no babies born with HIV whose mothers were on treatment. However, unfortunately, there were 2 babies whose mothers did not avail themselves of medication that were born with HIV. And we're continuing to work. We are seeing some gains in our HIV response. We're working to get as many people knowing what their HIV status is.
Was that the case with those mothers? They did not know their status? Or?
They did not avail themselves to come in to get treatment. So we do have these targets, the UNAIDS targets. In a nutshell, it's to get by 2030, by the year 2030, as many people as possible knowing their HIV status. We want 95% of people living with HIV in the Bahamas to know their status, and 95% of those knowing their status on effective treatment, and 95% of them reaching this gold standard test, undetectable. You've seen it on TV. No copies of HIV can be found in a blood sample. It's great for patients. It means that undetectable means it's not transmittable. U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable, not sexually, not mother to baby, or any other ways. And so we're making some progress on that. 93% of people know their HIV status. We still have a gap. That means 7% do not know their HIV status. We have 82% of people on treatment. There's been a threefold increase in treatment in the past 10 years. In 2012, we had, let's say, over 1,000 persons on treatment. In 2022, we had 3,017 persons on treatment, so that increased threefold. And viral suppression, 81% of people are virally suppressed. Now, we have more to do. We can't just sit back and say we've made tremendous progress. We have more to do. And on World AIDS Day, we talk about that. We talk about how do we get people to know their status? What are the ways that people can get tested for HIV? We talk about getting accessible medication, getting people to stay on medication, and best practice models to make sure, just like diabetes, high blood pressure, we have targets for treatment. We have targets for HIV treatment, to have an undetectable viral load. So that's where we are in the Bahamas in our fight against HIV and AIDS.
The numbers going down, what do you attribute that to? Is it education? Is it the testing? Is it all of the above? What is it?
Yes, all of the above. It's a combination of factors. So effective medication, therapy is prevention in itself. If people are taking effective therapy, by the way, HIV treatment in the Bahamas is free of cost. It has always been free of cost, and the government has supported this. If they are taking effective therapy, then once they have gotten to this standard where the blood test shows no copies of HIV virus in the blood test, called undetectable, it's not transmittable. The virus is not transmittable. So that means that that's an effective way of preventing transmission from person to person in any circumstance, right? So that has played a tremendous role in terms of the progress we've seen in new infections. But it's not just that. It has to be a holistic approach. There has to be HIV prevention that's effective. And there has to be many ways to provide HIV prevention modalities or options, because no single option is 100% effective and efficacious where people are going to take it up. And so we have to think about risk reduction. People have to know what their risk is for HIV. Do you have multiple partners? You don't always use condoms. You don't know their status. Know your status. Use condoms effectively, properly throughout the entire sex act. If that is not happening, what are other ways? The HIV prevention pill. It's called HIV PrEP. We've talked about that in other shows before. We can expand on it later on. That is very effective. If used as prescribed, it can reduce the chance of HIV being transmitted by upward of 98%. So there's that. What about sexually transmitted infections? If someone has an infection, an ulcer or inflammation in the genital tract, that increases the chance of getting HIV, right? Then there are other methods of reducing risk, knowing your partner's status, for example, and considering other ways to reduce person's risk for HIV. A lot of that looks at structural things and accessibility, how we offer services, how we protect the most vulnerable, how we offer services for people that are most at risk. So that's a part of it. Treatment, getting people into testing. And may I say that this is a partnership, that this is offered free of charge in public settings throughout the Bahamas, the entire archipelago. And there are other partners. There are private partners. There are private physicians that are working hard in the fight against HIV and AIDS that also offer our medications free of charge in the public sector. And then the civil society partners. We have an HIV resource committee that has almost 15 to 20 partners. The AIDS Foundation is also doing great work. They're also on the HIV AIDS resource committee, and the work that's being done every day in country to provide services
Yeah.
especially to those that need it most.
All right. Well, you mentioned STIs, and so I wanted to ask if the behaviors have really changed, because we're seeing the reports that the STIs, they're increasing in numbers, the incidents here. Let's talk about that and what that means in this fight against HIV and AIDS.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much for asking about that. And so we did. So our epidemiologist, she has some very handy information, and she also included. Did you know that the HIV program 1 year ago amalgamated to include the sexually transmitted infections program and the tuberculosis program, among other infections? And so we do have some information that we are seeing a reduction in these positive numbers that have arisen from testing for STIs. And we do have to look at that more closely, because even though there seems to be a reduction in trends of positive cases of those sexually transmitted infections, among them being chlamydia and gonorrhea, we have to know that the way that STIs are diagnosed, there's something called, we look at the symptoms. It's called a syndromic approach. And so if people are coming in with symptoms, it's very possible to diagnose chlamydia, gonorrhea, and other sexually transmitted infections, even syphilis. It's possible to clinically see the patient, and in some of those cases, especially the ones with discharge, all right, that the patients can be treated, and there may not always be a corresponding test. When the sample is taken, it may not always be positive. And so we do have to keep that in mind. And usually when we have information, we're called as scientists and public health specialists to look closer at that information and say, okay, why are we seeing these trends? Is it that there's less testing? Is it that there's more syndromic treatment? Is it that it's a true decline in cases? And so we do have to unpack that information.
Well, okay.
I was gonna ask because clearly treatment for HIV has advanced significantly since I guess the beginning. You come from what ACT with in the 90s to I think it was in February they're talking about a guy through stem cell treatment essentially quote unquote cured of his infection. What all treatments are available? I know you touched on PrEP as a preventative one, but like what all treatments are available for persons in the country?
Well, thanks for that question. That's a great question. So HIV treatment is free. I always start off with that, whether it's in the public or private sector.
Right.
All right. So.
But you guys ain't giving out stem cells.
Well, let's talk about that. But first, I'm going to talk about the available treatments. Then I'm going to come back to the stem cells.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Okay. So we have worked hard to have partnerships with industry partners and private partners to provide the best quality medications that are effective, easy to take, with low side effects, and bring it to our Bahamian public, to everybody living with HIV in the Bahamas.
Right.
So I always say, if you had to take medication, and if you think back yourself, Mr. Hanna, and listeners, if you ever had to take a course of medication for a short period of time, you know that once, that you may start not wanting to take it as much, right? And there could be other things. So if there could be the perfect medication, wouldn't you want it to be one pill once a day, easy to take or less?
Right.
Wouldn't you want it to
Or
be
one time.
free of side effects, right?
Yeah.
Cost effective. And if you could taste it, taste good, for example.
Or not
right?
taste it at all.
Exactly. All right. And again, free of side effects, right? And we have gotten to that point.
Where it's no longer a handful of pills.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said it, because when you go back, if you think about how medication looked early in the response, when Dr. Gomez started this program, and I remember working as his intern, medication was a handful of pills. You had to take it 3 times a day.
Wow.
All right. And for kids, how did those liquids taste? But now we're at 1 pill once a day. And we have through our private partnerships, gotten brand medications through our partnerships. That is also available free of cost. And it is because of those partners that provide these medications in an equitable, accessible way for our country that we've been able to do that. That these are the same medications that are available in developed countries. And so that is a lot of how HIV medication looks in the Bahamas today. We have many of the regimens. Now, there are some new things that are coming out. You've heard of injectable medications. It's called Cabenuva. I have no conflicts or disclosures. That it's an injection. They are still under trade agreements.
So that one is expensive.
It is, yes, it is. So usually in the Caribbean context, sometimes countries on block and through support of partner agencies can procure some of these medications. That is not available through those mechanisms yet. But we do certainly have effective medication that you can take this one pill once a day and it works extremely well. So that gold standard called undetectable, that can be reached very quickly in as short as 3 months, sometimes shorter. And it has very little side effects. And again, the government of the Bahamas has always committed to providing those. Now, there are advancements in the field of HIV. And that's a very good thing because we aim to make this infection something that is eliminated, right? So you talked about cure. So there is a lot of work going on into vaccine research, but we don't have one yet. And then when you talk about cure, there are a number of persons, they're in the single digits though, that have been cured of HIV infection. And you're correct, this was done through stem cell therapy. And so I'm going to try and explain how that works. So there are some people who are genetically immune to HIV. They can't get it.
It's a small segment of a specific
Absolutely.
population.
They have a mutation. All right. They were born that way. They have a mutation. So when persons are exposed to HIV, say sexually or whatever way, the virus binds to a receptor on cells, certain cells. That people who are immune to HIV have a mutation in that receptor. So HIV cannot bind to those cells. Okay? And so when they're given a stem cell transplant from a donor who has that natural mutation, then they can
it develops in them.
Precisely. Now, stem cell transplantation, you have to understand that's not something that's widely effective. So let's say there are 38.5 million people who are living with HIV. That's not something that is accessible or even applicable to all of those persons because
it wouldn't be universal.
Stem cell. Usually, for example, this could be used to treat certain blood cancers.
Because the fifth guy had leukemia.
Precisely. And so in the treatment of these blood cancers, in the lead up to to get the stem cell therapy, there's so much that one has to undergo. For example, radiation and other very invasive procedures that in itself can be life-threatening with side effects. And then to get the transplantation, there could also be side effects. So this is how this came about. So there is a disease that can arise from advanced HIV or AIDS called leukemia or lymphoma. And so these persons that did benefit from these stem cell therapies, they were transplanted from donors who had that mutation, and that is how that worked.
Now,
right.
I don't want to take us too far off, but did they know that the donors that they were getting the stem cell from had this mutation, or was it, or just happenstance that they also match? Because I imagine that you have to, it has to be a match with your bone marrow or something like that.
Correct. So it was scientific research. It was deliberate.
Okay.
Yes.
So they tried. Okay.
Yeah. And it worked, but again, not something that is practically available to
Wow.
most people. And why would we do that when, there is a medication that is free of side effects and easy to take that can also get you to undetectable, which will preserve the health of the person and reduces transmission, and the lifespan will be quite normal.
Right. I mean, but it is interesting to hear it because now the question is, because I remember being, as a kid in the 90s, AIDS not just being a death sentence, but like that was it, right? But now it seems like, oh, there may be possibly an end to HIV and AIDS within our lifetime.
Oh, yes. So early on when the infection first happened, we didn't know all of these things about HIV treatment.
Right.
And what was effective treatment. And so with scientific research, now we understand what works, when it works, as soon as possible after the HIV diagnosis, and how this can affect preventing HIV from being spread.
Wow. All right, you mentioned it, PrEP. Let's talk about that and how that works and its use here in the Bahamas. How widespread are we seeing that now?
Well, thank you. So HIV PrEP it's a pill. It's a pill in the Bahamas. And what it is it's for people who are HIV negative and they have a increased risk. We call it a substantial risk of getting HIV. And who is that? So that can be someone who has been diagnosed with a sexually transmitted infection, especially in the last year. So HIV is transmitted just like sexually transmitted infections, syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea, right? So if you have had a sexually transmitted infection in the last year, you could have also gotten HIV. So that's one person who would benefit from PrEP. And then, if you're having sex and not always using condoms with a partner who you may not know their HIV status, or if you have multiple partners and you're not always using condoms, or if you have one partner but your partner may have multiple partners, you may not know about this, by the way.
They have wandering pelvis syndrome.
You may not know. You might not know that your one-sex partner has multiple partners. Okay. What about if you can't negotiate sex for whatever reason, or condoms are not always used? Condoms are not consistently being used. Or it can also be used for persons who may have a risk because of relationship matters, violence, forced sex. You can't always negotiate condoms, for example. It could be for sex workers who are not always using condoms, for example. Or it could be because you think that you have an increased risk for HIV because of any or all of those reasons. And they could be complex, that you can benefit from the HIV prevention pill PrEP. It is a 1 pill once a day. It is free of cost. The Bahamas was the first country in the English-speaking Caribbean to launch this program.
Wow.
In 2016, we shared the knowledge, and other Caribbean countries started their PrEP programs. We helped to train their providers too.
That's free of cost as well.
What's that?
You said the PrEP is free of cost as well. Because I mean, I on BET, that must be their most popular ad. Like if somebody has BET on, the PrEP ad comes on constantly, and so I assume the PrEP was not free.
PrEP has always been free in the Bahamas, and we understand that that is a good public health investment.
Right.
And so what is required is that you need to come in and see your healthcare provider, your doctor, because there needs to be a consultation, basically. So you have to do a test because you have to be HIV negative. Why we would not want to start you on these medications that can also be used in the fight of and treatment of HIV. If you are HIV positive, we give a cocktail of correct, right? And we want to do some screening for sexually transmitted infections to make sure that you don't have a sexually transmitted infection. Some of these infections have no symptoms, right? And then we talk about the risk. We do some basic blood tests so we can make sure and monitor there are no side effects. It's very palatable. There are very few side effects. And then we talk about what is your willingness to take it. Because one thing that we know for sure in those studies is that PrEP does not work if you don't take it properly. So you have to take it consistently as prescribed by your healthcare provider for it to work. And you have to get some information on how long you have to be taking it before it will work. It was really designed as a part of a combination approach to reduce your risk. And so condoms still reduce risk. PrEP will not protect you from sexually transmitted infections,
And it covers the other 2%, because you said it's 98%?
Correct.
Effective, so I guess the condoms will cover the other 2%?
Yes, because it will not protect you from getting chlamydia, syphilis, gonorrhea, or any other sexually transmitted infections, which do have their complications on their own, correct? And then you will have to follow up with your provider to make sure that you're taking it and to review for side effects and to monitor blood tests, your hepatitis profile, and so on. Those are some of the ways that it can be taken. And you could ask your healthcare provider about HIV PrEP.
Any healthcare
and
provider.
you should ask your health. By the way, can I say that the Ministry of Health did do a nationwide training on this medication PrEP, HIV prevention PrEP, and HIV treatment with the support of the PAHO WHO. And we trained about 150 healthcare workers nationwide, including the Family Islands, on how PrEP can be prescribed. It's a
Excellent.
clinical training and given.
Do you know how widespread it's being used now? Can you say, do you have numbers or?
Yes. So year upon year, our PrEP uptake has increased, but we still have under 200 persons on PrEP. But I can say that people do not necessarily stay on PrEP because your risk could change, or you may decide condoms is preferred. But we have it available, and the uptake is increasing. But we really need more. We need more and more persons on it, especially those at risk. And I'll tell you, as a medical doctor, it is sad when we see patients that we might screen. They may present, for example, with an STI, and we counsel on PrEP, and they prefer not to take it. But it's very sad to see the patient come back later with an HIV infection. So you have to think about opportunities. You have to think about opportunities for you to protect yourself. So for those that are listening, if you have any of those risks, and you know, people know their risk.
Right.
They know their risk. Please talk to your provider about HIV prevention, because HIV is very, very preventable in our time. If I could just go back, in 2012, we had 300 new cases of HIV that were reported. And in 2021, we had 112 cases, which was a 63% decline. But if you think about those 100 cases, what if they had been on HIV PrEP? And when's the next best time to do something? If you couldn't have done it then, now. No. So if you know that you have a risk, please take the following steps. Go and get an HIV test. There are many ways to do that. We're going to talk more about that later on. Go and see your provider. Talk about your risk. And protect yourself. It's all about protecting your health and your sexual health. And sexual health is a part of health. So there are many options to protect you.
Wow. Lady Camille Barnett.
Yes.
The work continues for the Bahamas AIDS Foundation.
Absolutely.
Even though we're making progress.
Yes.
Let's
absolutely.
talk about that and where you find yourselves.
Okay. One of the things that I often talk about before COVID and after COVID. So before COVID, we started going into the Family Islands. Of course, that had to stop because of that COVID period. But we're back into the Family Islands with a commitment to tap 5 Family Islands every year. We just finished the 5th one, Berry Islands, and so in 2024 we will target another 5 islands. And we're going to places where you normally would not expect people to go in Agua, so those sort of far-flung islands, and we go in with a team, and it's a partnership with the Ministry of Health and the National HIV/AIDS Program, because they're persons who do the testing come with us. If there's nobody on the island who can do the testing, they come with us. So we have the testing as well as the awareness and the education taking place. And the team is composed of 2 persons from our foundation. One is Dr. Carleen Smith-McKenzie, and we tackle all age groups. Okay, so the little ones, and of course, the message you give depends on the age group that you're dealing with. So she tackles the young kids, the primary school age, the teenagers, and the adults. Okay, and so far it's been very effective. They're happy to see you. They're glad to get the information, and they're happy that you've actually come to to share the information with them. Our program with young people continues. We are delivering. We realize that food security is still very much an issue in the country, and so we are delivering groceries to them once a week. And obviously, we can't supply all of their grocery needs. We're just sort of supplementing their grocery needs. And we realized how important food was, because when we had the after-school program for the kids, they came because they knew they were going to get a hot meal at the end of the day. And we realized that that's why they came, because it was a voluntary program. And so we felt that we had to continue feeding them in some way or the other. So that's how the grocery delivery program started. We are also, in the new year, going to be doing some skills training with our young persons, our infected and affected young persons. And we're also going to be doing some work in the LGBT community, as well as other key populations, sex workers and migrants, in terms of education, as well as sensitizing stakeholders in terms of inclusion and equity, treating people, making them feel welcome, so everybody feels that they have equal access to testing, to treatment, and to care, etc.
I was going to ask, because I know there are different persons who find themselves at risk. Is anything being done in the migrant community in terms of that? Because inaugural makes sense because it's a smaller population. That's a quick tackle. But what about local migrant population?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things that we want to do. We want to go into the migrant population, as well as find somebody who has that connection in that community and work with them. And the same thing with sex workers.
Right. You've been doing this for quite a while. First of all,
30 plus years.
I assume that by now you'd be a DM, but one step at a time, right? Sense the change that you've seen, because I feel like you'd be more aware of what it was like at that point to now. Are you happy with the progress that's happening? Are you happy with, even in terms of stigma, for how persons react to HIV and AIDS?
There's definitely been an improvement in terms of people's reaction in terms of stigma. I mean, in the early days, persons didn't even want to go into the hospital room where there was a patient who was HIV positive. And I remember the Zonda Club of Nassau was a club that formed the AIDS Foundation at the request of Dr. Gomez. And I remember Dr. Gomez asking us if we would volunteer to go into the hospital and work with those patients. So we have come a very long way. Unfortunately, the stigma and discrimination is still there. It is still very much an issue and a concern. But I am pleased, and the work the National AIDS programs has just been amazing in terms of the statistics and how those key factors have all been reduced in terms of hospitalization, death, AIDS-related deaths, etc. But the reality is that the stigma and discrimination is still there.
And even with children.
And their stories. One of the worst stories I heard in the last couple of years was a mother who found out that her daughter's best friend was HIV positive. And that mother waited at the bus stop until the child got off the bus stop and followed her to the school and telling people and I guess calling her names and saying terrible things. Unfortunately, there was a guidance counselor who was at the gate of the school and saw it happening and quickly grabbed up that parent. And this was a couple of years ago.
Wow.
I mean, really still, so yes, there's still work to be done in terms of stigma and discrimination.
Getting some great questions here on our text line and calls as well. Let's see if we can take this call, and then we'll get to these questions on the text line. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Are you there? Good morning, caller. I hear something, but no, okay. This texter is asking, if a person has HIV and is being treated and is now undetectable, are they still expected to use condoms every time in a relationship? And if they're single, even though you said they won't pass it on because the count is low.
Right. Whoa. So, sorry. I was like, so much. And I was like, I'm not a doctor. Sorry. Be quiet, Stephen. Okay.
And there's more, but we'll get to that part. But you want to answer that?
Are they saying that they're with one partner or they're single?
Well, let's talk about it all. If you are now undetectable, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think to fully understand reducing HIV transmission risk, it does have to be individualized. Okay? So there are a lot of different scenarios where one partner has HIV and the other partner is negative. And both partners know. There are married couples like that. There are long-term committed relationship partners like that. There are even new relationships like that. And the partner with HIV did disclose their HIV positive status to their partner. And so we can work together in that situation.
Right.
If the partner with HIV is undetectable, then what we do is we work together with the couple to reduce the risk to the partner that's negative. And so if you have a sustained undetectable, not all partners will use condoms. Some partners will say, no, we only use condoms. We're comfortable with that. And then the HIV negative partner, that they are eligible, they could be on the HIV medication PrEP. All right, so there are situations like that. Right. The negative partner is on PrEP. The positive partner is very good at taking their medication, stays in cure, make sure they're undetectable. They may still use condoms.
But they might not.
They might not, because that's the situation. They may not, all right? So there are scenarios like that, and we do have couples like that. And so if your partner is HIV positive, you're HIV negative, you might also be eligible for the medication PrEP. You should speak to your provider about that. And again, this also underscores the best situation where you have had conversations about your sexual health with who you're sleeping with who you're having sex with, to put it as plainly as possible. And if you cannot have that conversation, you really need to think about protecting yourself and how you can protect yourself, because that information is not always shared. And we have to have honest conversations about that and frank conversations about that to keep ourselves and others healthy. And sometimes that's an uncomfortable conversation. So for all those listening, start having that conversation from early on. Don't wait till you get in the heat of the moment to say, hold on, wait, what about? You understand? So, anyway, I don't want to digress. However,
that was couples you're talking about.
Yes, but okay. So there are other situations that sex happens without a partnership. Well, you could also protect your own health. If you have HIV, well, you could also get syphilis. Syphilis is a sexually transmitted infection. It starts with a sore on the private area. Doctors call it a genital ulcer. That's going to go away. It will eventually go away, but you will still be syphilis positive. And that can affect your organs, from the brain, the heart, and it can lead to a lot of complications. So you can get sexually transmitted infections. Some of them can be very, very serious. Right. And so the only way to prevent those properly is condoms. And so condom use, used effectively, is very effective to prevent HIV. And when I say properly, that means before the sex act, before penetration or even contact between the genital area, because you can get some STIs just from contact, even without intercourse. And throughout the intercourse, and to remove it after the intercourse. So they are to be used effectively, right? And so in those cases where sex is happening and there may not be a partnership, for example, it is the best to protect yourself. And protection does not only include condoms or HIV PrEP. But let me just say again, for those persons out there, you're not sure of your partner's status. And by the way, people can say things that's not necessarily true. You know about yourself. A nurse I work with for a number of years, so you only know about yourself and your risk. You can't be sure about that other person's risk. Please avail yourself of the opportunities to protect yourself. Condoms, water-based lubricants so the condom doesn't break. PrEP, knowing your status, being informed, and learning how to negotiate to make sure that you stay safe. And so I could only say that HIV and STI prevention is the best standard, especially if you are single, And if you are single and HIV positive, that also applies.
Let's take these calls very quickly. Caller, we're running out of time. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. How are you doing?
Doing well.
About those individuals that may have cold sores, or I'd like to know what is the update on people who had herpes status, because years ago when I was in college, I got the scare of my life. And first time I learned about herpes when I saw a young lady had an outbreak on her lips and her nose, and I was like, what is that? And give me an update on what they're saying about cold sores and herpes, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So when we think about cold sores and herpes, so that's referring to a virus called herpes 1, and there's also herpes 2. Herpes 1 traditionally is what you see when people have cold sores. And there's a kind of ulcer that could develop on the private areas that is herpes 2. Now, these infections, these viruses, they're spread easily. Herpes 1 is not necessarily sexually spread. It's very common. A large proportion of the population is going to test positive for herpes, including children, because it's on your lip. And so from when you're in school, primary school, you're sharing toys, you put the toy in your mouth, you could share a drink, someone gives you a quick kiss at church, you can get herpes 1. You could get a cold sore on your lip. Herpes 2 is a little bit different, but that's usually spread by genital contact. So that's why I was saying, even if you don't have the condom on, but there's contact between the genital area, it can be spread. Now, with other ways of having sex, like oral genital contact, therefore herpes 1 can be on the genital area and herpes 2 can be on the lip. You understand what I'm saying? So that is fully possible. Now, how do these things present? Usually it's a sore on the lip. There's usually a bump first that becomes liquid filled. Now on the genital area, what we know as herpes, genital herpes, that starts just like that. It's painful, and then the blisters will erupt and form sores. So they can happen at certain intervals. It can be recurrent. And there are certain things that can make it more likely to have people to have an outbreak. And it can be spread sexually, especially when there are ulcers there. And so for those persons, you should go in and see your doctor, and they can advise you on medication. There are several antiviral medications that can be used to treat it. And if it's happening frequently, you can take this medication daily to reduce the chance of having outbreaks and the shed of it. And so that's where we are. Yeah. So, by the way, herpes 2, the one that causes genital ulcers, it's not always something that the physician will test for because it's a clinical diagnosis. And but it is definitely something that we can treat and even prevent.
Treat, but it doesn't go away. Do you have that for life? That's what we'd always heard about herpes 2.
Some people are going to have continued genital outbreaks, but it depends. Some people don't have much of a problem with it, but it can flare up, quote unquote. Can I say that if you have a genital ulcer, that increases your chance of getting HIV because of the break in the skin.
Right. Herpes 1, is that's you have that and that's gone, or is that also for
it's a cold sore on the lip, right? So that can come back. There are things like stressors that right, or it may not bother you for quite some time.
Yeah, but
it's also treatable by antivirals. Yeah.
So I mean, right? Just what last question, right quick, because I remember when they used to be okay. These are the ways that you can get it. You see the rise of all these tattoo parlors all over the place. People giving you a $50 tattoo, $25 tattoos. And are these things also a concern for you guys in terms of, I guess, the practices of the safety that's happening there? Because you're talking about, it's a literal
needle. It is a needle, yeah.
So it's like, is this a concern for
in the HIV/AIDS?
Right. I'm going to say the department inside Jacob.
Well, HIV can be transmitted by needle sticks. It could be in drug use, injection drug use. We don't have a lot of that in the Bahamas. I've probably seen about two cases from ever since I've been a doctor in the Caribbean with injection drug use, but it could also be spread by other needle sticks. And since a tattoo relies on a needle, that speaks to regulations and rules being followed in tattoo parlors. And there are rules and regulations about new and sterile needles in those places.
So keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So if you were getting a tattoo, then you as the client,
I know what to do. Like the barber,
want to make sure that it is a new needle, and there would be rules and regulations governing those needles and the safety of those.
Okay.
For those businesses.
We're well over time. Lady Camille Barnett, you have like 20 seconds. How can people help the AIDS Foundation?
Yes, absolutely. We have an event this evening that we'd love people to come to. It's called Sunset Move. It's a fitness event. It's 6 o'clock at Arawak Key, right in front of the paved area, right in front of the restrooms. We have 4 fitness instructors, and it is fitness and a happy hour combined. So you do a little bit of exercise on the Friday evening, you make yourself feel good, and then come and have a drink.
Excellent.
And have something to eat. Okay?
Sounds like
and
a good time.
This is all in commemoration of World AIDS Day. Yes. And, contact us at info@bahamasaidsfoundation.org or call us at 325-9326. You'd be surprised the various ways in which you can help. It's not always money that we need. Sometimes it's just a skill that you have that you can pass on to our kids.
Okay.
There are various ways in which you can, provide service to the foundation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Nakia Forbes, you have the final word. You got 15 seconds on this World AIDS Day. What do you say to the
Thank
Bahamian
you
people?
for inviting us to commemorate World AIDS Day with you again. And I'll use my last words to say, HIV is preventable. Please know your status. Protect yourself. Condoms and lubricants. HIV prevention pill prep. And to be aware, do not discriminate. Know the facts on HIV and AIDS. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you both. Always a pleasure
Thank you for
talking with
having
both
us.
of you. And happy World AIDS Day to everybody. Stephen Hanna, thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. I'll be off for a few days, folks. You'll hear from me in a little bit later in December. But enjoy your weekend. Have a great time. Chester Robards will be here on Monday. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.